The ocean is full of so many absolutely terrifying animals, and the farther down you go, the more disturbing they become.
We're talking fish with teeth so big their mouths literally won't shut, sightings of ancient monsters, and some pretty uncomfortable mating rituals. It's all here, let's dive in.
In the serene waters of Seljordsvatnet in Telemark, Norway, there's a legend that has existed for over 2.5 centuries. The existence of a mysterious sea creature dubbed Selma. The legend of Selma has been passed down through the generations, a part of the folklore for locals of the area, but back in 2012, Selma took a step closer to reality when a 17-year-old named Lisbeth, while on a family trip, managed to capture what are hailed as some of the best images ever recorded of this creature. Possibly. During a family outing, Lisbeth captured a pretty good video. Gunvor Vefal, Lisbeth's mother, had her own encounter with Selma in 1995, and her mother saw it back in 1970. She never came out publicly at the time with her story though, thinking she'd just get laughed at. In the footage, you can see some sort of long object colliding gracefully beneath the surface of the water with approximately 40 to 50 distinct humps. It's a pretty solid piece of footage. What do you all think though? Misidentified animal or genuine sea serpent?
The anglerfish is truly a sight to make sore eyes. I mean, this thing is freaky, and so are its mating habits. You can quite easily differentiate the male anglerfish from the female by its size. Males tend to run quite small, generally an inch max. Females are much larger, generally measuring up to 24 inches. When a male and female anglerfish decide they would like to engage in adult activity, things get weird. The male anglerfish will actually bite the female anglerfish and become something called a sexual parasite. Slowly, over time, the male anglerfish will actually fuse with the body of the female until only its reproductive organs remain. Said organs will then fertilize the female, and in just 3 weeks, the mom and what remains of the dad anglerfish will welcome their new babies into the world. Now before we move on, let's take one last look at this female anglerfish, and more specifically the thing coming out of her incredibly bulbous head. That thing is called a stalk, and it is tipped with a bunch of little bioluminescence which the female anglerfish will use to attract prey in the pitch black deep sea, where she resides at an average depth of around 3,000 feet.
The Skaha Lake Monster. Jim LaRoque, a resident of South Okanagan, Canada, stirred quite a buzz about 5 years back with his alleged sighting of the Ogopogo, the mythical lake monster of Okanagan Lake. LaRoque and his children were by Skaha Lake in Caledon, BC on June 1st of 2019 when he noticed a peculiar disturbance in the water. Describing the incident, he stated he heard a whooshing sound and observed ripples on the lake. His son, who was on a paddleboard nearby, reportedly saw a flipper emerge from the water. LaRoque managed to capture footage of what he claimed to be this massive serpentine creature. The footage was so shocking it even showed up on the news. Canadian news, to be fair, not much goes on up here. He estimated it to be about 120 feet long, with 7 fins moving in sync, resembling oars of an upside-down dragon boat. The Ogopogo legend itself has deep roots dating back to the 1700s, with First Nations people sharing tales of this mysterious water creature lurking in the waters of Lake Okanagan.
Alright, this thing looks straight up like it just walked straight out of your nightmare. It's called the Magnapina squid, and it was first recorded by a camera attached to an oil rig in Texas. This is an incredibly elusive animal, and so catching one on film is a major accomplishment. While these squids aren't as big as giant squids, they are incredibly long, with some growing to be more than 20 feet in length. The largest one discovered to date was 21 feet long, but since we have only ever seen a handful of these guys, it's entirely possible that there are some Magnapinas out there 2 or 3 times that size, which really would make them the longest squid in the world. Although, as I said, this guy has only ever been spotted a handful of times before, the fact that it was once spotted at a depth of 20,381 feet makes it the deepest occurring squid genus known to man. And while we don't know exactly what this animal's long appendages are used for, scientists assume they act kind of like fishing lures, grabbing any edible organisms they can while they drag them along the sea floor at a depth that would literally crush you or I. Fascinating.
Coelacanths are incredibly fascinating creatures because they're actually prehistoric animals still swimming around in the ocean to this day. As cool as they are though, they're also kind of creepy looking. They kind of have like zombie looking eyes. What's crazy about them too is that they were actually thought to have gone extinct along with the dinosaurs, but in 1938 they were rediscovered and found to still exist. An animal that was believed to have died out about 65 million years before was actually still around. Pretty cool. These fish are believed to have inhabited the earth for 360 million years, and it shows. They're pretty big, growing sometimes over 6 feet in length. They also seem to be a bit of a missing link between the creatures of the sea and land-dwelling amphibians, because a coelacanth's 4 fins move in a way that almost resembles fore and hind legs.
This creature doesn't just live a long time, it's biologically immortal. Often called the immortal jellyfish, these guys can literally reverse their aging process. When faced with stress, starvation, or physical damage, it reverts back to its polyp stage and begins life over again. A talent I'm sure we all wish that we had. It's the only known creature on Earth with this ability. It's tiny, only about 4.5 millimeters, but its godlike ability to defy death has made scientists rethink what's possible in biology. Some researchers studying it believe it could help unlock secrets to anti-aging in humans. Others, they can't help but compare it to ancient mythologies of eternal gods like Kronos, the Greek personification of time itself. Imagine a monster from the darkest abyss with fang-like teeth and glowing red lights. That is the deep-sea dragonfish, one of the ocean's most nightmarish predators. But here's what makes it extra strange. It produces red bioluminescence, which is nearly invisible to most deep-sea animals. It's like it has a private laser pointer no one else can see. Found over 2,000 meters below the surface, this fish essentially becomes invisible while it hunts. Some scientists believe this could be a form of biological cloaking, something unheard of in any land animal. Ancient mythologies often speak of sea gods who could disappear into darkness or create light in the deep, traits eerily mirrored by this creature's natural biology. It was once thought to be a sailor's legend until it was caught on camera. The giant squid can grow up to 43 feet long and has eyes the size of basketballs. For centuries, fishermen told stories of tentacled beasts pulling ships into the sea. People laughed, but then, in 2012, a Japanese team finally filmed one alive in its natural habitat. Its eerie, almost otherworldly movements stunned viewers around the world. Marine biologists confirmed this species has the ability to strike prey using long tentacles from meters away, and its feeding mechanism is almost alien-like in design. With its elusive nature and colossal size, it is definitely easy to see why ancient people believed creatures like this were gods of the sea, able to destroy on a whim and vanish into the deep. Would you survive in water hotter than boiling? No, of course not, but this thing does. The Pompeii worm lives near hydrothermal vents deep in the Pacific Ocean, where temperatures reach over 176 degrees Fahrenheit or 80 degrees Celsius. Its back is coated with a symbiotic layer of bacteria that insulates it like armor, and may be the reason it survives such extreme conditions. Scientists discovered it in the 1980s and were baffled. Its existence defied what was thought possible for life. But what's stranger is that in ancient Sumerian and Greek texts, they spoke of gods born from fire and water, a union that perfectly describes the Pompeii worm's environment. It's not just surviving in hell, it thrives in it. This fish has a completely see-through skull. And inside, 2 giant green eyes that stare upward through its own head. Meet the barrel eye fish. Discovered in the 1930s but only fully photographed in 2004, this 6-inch long creature lives at around 2,500 feet deep. Its fluid-filled, transparent dome allows it to track prey by looking straight through its own skull. It does not look real, but it is. Some marine biologists have compared its bizarre anatomy to depictions of watchers in myth, beings who see all, move between worlds, and are said to monitor humanity from above or below.
The fang fangtooth fish is generally found at a depth of about 16,404 feet, which has earned it the distinction of deepest fish known to man, and its appearance might just earn it the distinction of most disturbing. But hey, to each their own, right? Although it generally resides in some of the deepest depths known to man or fish, the fangtooth has been seen at depths of just 6.5 thousand feet, which is where it was first discovered by scientists. Out of the few fangtooths spotted just far, 6.6 to 7 inches seems to be a pretty standard body size, but again, we've only seen a handful, so they could be way larger than previously assumed, which is a very scary thought. Now, in case you haven't noticed, this thing has massive teeth. In fact, it has the largest teeth to body ratio of any known fish, to the point where the fangtooth is actually physically incapable of shutting its own mouth. In other words, it's a yappa. Yappa yappa. If you're Gen Z, you get that reference. It's also incredibly fast, with a bite that appears to be way worse than its bark. It's been observed lunging at its prey of shrimp, fish, and squid at incredible speeds, and impaling them on its razor-sharp teeth, chopping them up and swallowing them down in less than a few seconds. Good day to be me, bad day to be a shrimp.
The Humboldt squid has a few nicknames: the jumbo squid, jumbo flying squid. In Peru, they're called pota. They're big and not the friendliest. Pretty freaky squids. For starters, these things have barbed tentacle suckers. Even if you don't know what barbed tentacle suckers are, you just get this sense that they're not good. This is a large predatory squid found in the eastern Pacific Ocean. They have long, powerful tentacles equipped with suckers, each lined with sharp, barbed teeth. The beak of the Humboldt squid is also sharp, allowing them to tear into the flesh of their prey. So they're pretty intimidating as is, but even worse, they travel in large packs. And when I say large, I'm not talking about like 10. These packs can consist of thousands, and they're very coordinated, so they can overwhelm larger prey pretty easily. And just like any nightmarish creature, they only come out at night. At least that's when we're most likely to encounter them. They come closer to the surface at night to feed. During the day, they're found much deeper down. So, moral of the story, don't go swimming around in the eastern Pacific Ocean at night, or you might be swarmed by thousands of barbed tentacled jumbo flying squids.
Residing at a depth of about 1,640 feet, we have the frilled shark, which is, like the coelacanth, considered to be a living fossil due to the fact that its origins date all the way back to the Carboniferous period, which took place between 359 to 299 million years ago. The frill shark is named after its gills, of which it has 6, which each boast a distinctive frilly margin that kind of looks like a decorative trim. But that's not the only thing that sets this deep sea dweller apart from the others. You see, while most sharks have two completely separate sets of symmetrical gills on either side of their body, the frilled shark's frontmost gills actually connect underneath its throat. Some other things you might just find interesting about this animal are that, just like the great white shark, this frill shark has 25 rows of razor-sharp, backwards-facing teeth on both its upper and lower jaws. Unlike the great white shark, the frill shark attacks like a snake by lunging at its prey. This gray aquatic dinosaur also has a gestation period of up to 3.5 years. 3.5 years. Seriously, thank God I'm not a frill shark.
Now, we can't do a list like this without mentioning the giant squid. I mean, giant squids are some of the largest invertebrates on Earth. Adults can reach lengths of up to 43 feet, at least from what we've seen. There's still a lot of mystery to these things, and some researchers say they could grow even bigger than that. They live in the deep ocean at depths of 3,000 to 6,500 feet. They're very elusive and live so deep down, they're very rarely seen. Giant squids have the largest eyes of any known animal, measuring up to 10 inches in diameter. Their eyes allow them to detect faint traces of bioluminescent light in the deep sea. They have long tentacles equipped with suckers lined with sharp teeth. The 2 long feeding tentacles, along with the 8 shorter arms, help them capture and consume their prey. These things aren't just scary in terms of size either, they're also carnivorous, hunting fish and even other squid species. They've even been known to eat small sharks. What's so amazing about these creatures is that for centuries they were only talked about in stories told by fishermen or sailors. They were treated like any other mythical creature. It isn't until fairly recently that one of these things were actually captured on camera. Because of where they live and how hard they are to catch, studying giant squids is a tough task. Most of our knowledge about them comes from specimens that have washed ashore or from examining stomach contents from creatures that have eaten them. sperm whales. That's basically the only animal big enough to mess with these things.
And of course we have to include the goblin shark, a truly unsettling specimen with a protruding mouth that extends outwards to catch its prey. The goblin shark was discovered by scientist David Starr Jordan in 1098, however the species itself is actually believed to be around 125 million years old. The animal boasts 26 long, thin, spiky teeth on their upper jaw and 24 on their lower jaw. The more I learn about this thing, the more I want to stay as far away from it as possible. Lucky for me, this goblin shark is generally seen at depths of 4,265 feet, but unluckily for me, it enjoys late night swims incredibly close to the surface of the water, which I will be keeping in mind the next time I want to take a late night dip in the heart of the Pacific, Atlantic, or Indian Ocean.
Yes, it lives in fresh water, but its closest relatives dwell deep in dark underwater cave systems, and what it can do is nothing short of divine. The axolotl can regenerate entire limbs, parts of its heart, and even its own brain. Researchers have amputated limbs, sliced spinal cords, and damaged eye tissue only to watch it all grow back perfectly. While axolotls are most commonly found in lakes like Xochimilco in Mexico, some of the cave-dwelling relatives in the same genus, like the olm or certain deep salamanders, thrive in pitch-black underwater cave systems and show similar godlike healing powers. In Aztec mythology, the god Solotl transformed into an axolotl to avoid death. It's hard not to see why the ancient people saw this creature as sacred. Imagine a creature swimming through Arctic waters that may have seen the 1400s. That is the Greenland shark. One specimen was carbon dated and estimated to be around 392 years old. Another might have been over 500. These sharks don't reach sexual maturity until around 150 years of age. They live deep in cold, dark waters and barely move, cruising through the sea with a slow, almost ghost-like motion. Their flesh is toxic to humans unless specially treated. In Inuit legend, these sharks are said to be guides of the underworld, silent watchers that drift through time itself. And with lifespans potentially reaching half a millennium, that doesn't sound too far off. This thing looks like a demon straight out of mythology. The goblin shark is an ancient species, often called a living fossil, because it's been around for roughly 125 million years. It has a long, flattened snout and its jaws that shoot forward like a harpoon to grab prey. When it opens its mouth, its jaws launch several inches ahead of its face at lightning speed. It lives at depths of up to 4,300 feet and is rarely seen by humans, thank goodness. Most sightings happen when one accidentally gets caught in deep sea trawls. Its nightmarish appearance and freakish ability have made it a symbol of deep sea mystery. Some researchers believe its bizarre morphology hasn't changed in millions of years, almost like something that's perfect as it is, or was never meant to evolve. This predator doesn't just sting, it electrocutes. The electric ray uses specialized organs to generate electrical shocks strong enough to stun or kill its prey. Some species, like the torpedo ray, can produce up to 220 volts, enough to knock out a human. In ancient Roman times, these fish were used in medicine to treat headaches by literally shocking patients. Ancient texts describe them as living thunderbolts, creatures that wielded divine power. In mythology, gods like Zeus controlled lightning. In the sea, this fish might have been seen as a piece of that raw, uncontrollable energy, and it's still out there today, swimming in silence. One day, scientists at the National Marine Mammal Foundation in California noticed something strange. It sounded like a person was talking, but there was no one around. The sounds were coming from a beluga whale named Nock. He had learned to mimic human speech patterns so well that divers initially thought a person was shouting underwater. The whale was moving its nasal cavity in a way never seen before, essentially reshaping its voice to sound like us. In many cultures, whales are seen as messengers of the gods, carrying wisdom and knowledge through song. Nock wasn't just singing, He was trying to speak. It started with a scream and ended with missing divers. In 2003, a diving expedition off the coast of Port Royal, Jamaica, encountered something terrifying. 2 divers entered the water to explore a deep reef trench, but only one came back. The survivor claimed they were ambushed by a massive, shadowy figure with writhing arms and eyes, quote, the size of dinner plates. Though unconfirmed, experts believe this may have been a Caribbean specimen of the elusive giant squid. These creatures can grow up to 40 feet long, and while usually deep sea dwellers, warming waters may be pushing them closer to the surface. Aggression towards humans is rare, but not impossible. Divers have reported being pulled violently into underwater caves and never seen again. In the blue holes of the Bahamas, especially around Andros Island, locals whisper about a sea monster called the Lusca. Described as half shark, half octopus, this creature is blamed for a number of disappearances near underwater cave systems. Some scientists believe the Lusca legend might be rooted in sightings of unusually large octopuses, possibly the giant octopus, a cryptid some believe to be real. Even National Geographic has covered unexplained injuries and suction scars on local marine life. Whether it's an undiscovered predator or just a terrifyingly aggressive octopus, something dangerous seems to dwell in those deep water pockets. Its barbed tail has been blamed for deaths dating back to the 1700s. Off the coast of Guadalupe, local fishermen have long feared a giant black stingray called the she-devil of the sea. According to oral tradition, this stingray is over 10 feet wide and uses its serrated tail to attack boats. In 1996, a tourist diving group encountered a ray estimated at over 14 feet across. One diver was slashed by its tail and suffered deep lacerations, though he survived. Marine biologists have noticed that Caribbean stingrays are often larger and more aggressive than their Pacific cousins. Whether it's a mutation or a relic species, many locals still refuse to swim near certain ocean coves. They say its eyes shine blacker than the abyss and it follows boats for miles. In the depths of the Cayman Trench, one of the deepest parts of the Caribbean Sea, submersibles have recorded footage of a terrifying, elongated eel-like creature with jet black eyes and a translucent body. First reported in 2012, this creature was spotted at over 20,000 feet below sea level, and it moved in ways that defied known eel locomotion. Eel locomotion is a phrase I never thought I would say. Researchers dubbed it Leviathanus, though it's yet to be classified. Its bioluminescence patterns were erratic and eerie, pulsing in red, not blue, which is unusual for deep-sea species. Some cryptozoologists speculate this could be a type of prehistoric gulper eel that never went extinct. Fishermen claim she sings before a storm and her song pulls you under. Near the Samana Peninsula in the Dominican Republic, there are long-standing tales of a mysterious sea woman with glowing eyes and razor-sharp teeth. Unlike your typical mermaid myth, this siren is considered malevolent. Locals say she appears just before hurricanes, and her eerie singing can be heard echoing through the coral reefs. In 2017, a deep-sea hydrophone caught strange audio recordings that included what some describe as unearthly whale song crossed with a woman's voice. No marine species has yet been matched to the sound. Superstition? Maybe, but the fact that locals take her so seriously suggests something unexplained is going on. 3 brothers scouting dive spots nearly drove over a 14-foot giant squid sprawled across the asphalt. A fierce Antarctic blast pummeled Wellington's south coast, and the next low tide revealed a giant squid. Mantle 4.2 meters, tentacles shredded by rocks at Red Rocks Reserve. Divers Jack, Daniel, and Matthew Applin phoned NIWA scientists who measured beak size to confirm full adult status. Extreme low-pressure systems can stun deep-dwelling squid, causing fatal buoyancy loss that sends them rocketing to the surface like balloons. Samples from this individual individual fed into global DNA studies mapping giant squid populations, turning a freak beach day into a data windfall for cephalopod science. Subsea cameras caught an octopus literally white-knuckling basalt as 40-foot waves smashed the surface above. During November's bomb cyclone, Ocean Networks Canada's observatory at Folger Pinnacle filmed a giant Pacific octopus flattening itself against rock outcrops while currents whipped kelp sideways. The cephalopod folded its web between arms, reducing drag, a behavior scientists had hypothesized but never observed before. Sensors recorded dissolved oxygen drops and turbidity spikes, offering rare paired data on how extreme weather affects benthic hunters. When conditions calmed 18 hours later, the octopus released its death grip and glided off unscathed, proving storm survival is possible hundreds of feet down, especially if you have 8 anchors. Commuters thought the tentacled blob in the elevator bay was a Halloween prank until it darted for a floor drain. A seasonal king tide amplified by offshore squalls pushed seawater through storm water drains onto a multi-story garage on 14th Street in Miami Beach in 2016. Along for the ride was a common octopus roughly the size of a dinner plate. Photos hit Twitter, prompting city staff to trap the animal in a bucket and return it to the bay. Marine engineers later used the incident to illustrate how rising seas and heavier rain events can convert drainage systems into reverse fire hoses, complete with free swimming hitchhikers. Deputies responding to dune-crushing surf found a fish wider than an SUV pancaked in ankle-deep foam. February's potent nor'easter funneled 15-foot breakers onto Volusia County, beaching a mola mola, or an ocean sunfish, weighing an estimated 300 kilograms. Body cam video shows officers comparing the fish to a slimy Roomba while using a stretcher board and rip current timing to slide it back into deeper water. According to NOAA, sunfish lack swim bladders and rely on dive and glide routines. Sudden pressure changes during storms can leave them stuck near the surface and vulnerable to shoreward currents. The fish powered off once afloat, closing our list with a rare, happy ending caught on official tape. In Puerto Rico's famous bioluminescent bays, especially Mosquito Bay, kayakers and swimmers have occasionally reported strange underwater encounters. One 2021 incident involved a young man who surfaced screaming with 2 small puncture wounds on his calf. The wounds didn't really bleed and reportedly glowed faintly for hours after. Some speculate this may be the work of a rarely seen species of deep-sea lamprey, possibly adapted to warmer, shallower waters. Though no lamprey has officially been documented in the Caribbean, bite patterns on captured fish seem to match. It's also been rumored that Navy divers in the 1980s refused to enter the bay after dark. No explanation was ever given. One second it looks like a reef shark, then it vanishes into the sand. Off the coast of Barbados, marine researchers were tagging sharks in 2019 when they encountered a bizarre specimen. It looked like a Caribbean reef shark until it folded its body flat and disappeared under the seabed. Local divers have called it the sand devil, and some say it's capable of camouflaging itself so perfectly that it becomes invisible. The best guess? A genetically divergent type of angel shark, which are extremely rare and usually found in the Pacific. If that's the case, this creature may have migrated or evolved independently. Either way, its aggressive stalking behavior has led several dive instructors to blacklist the area for beginner divers. It leaves behind trails of scorched seaweed and a burning smell underwater. Fishermen near Cuba's southern coast, especially around the Isle of Youth, have reported sightings of a massive snake-like creature that glows orange beneath the water. It's known locally as the burning serpent. In 2005, a research vessel actually recorded a heat signature on sonar matching the exact path described by local boaters. It left behind disturbed seabeds and what looked like burned vegetation. Some marine biologists suggest this may be a rare thermal vent-dwelling eel species, possibly excreting heated mucus or using bioelectrical discharge. No one's gotten close enough to confirm. One diver who tried apparently disappeared without a trace. Its pincers are rumored to slice through steel, and it hunts at night. In the deep reefs of Turks and Caicos, deep-sea crab traps have been coming up mangled or completely completely destroyed. In 2018, an NOAA research team found claw marks embedded in their steel retrieval gear. They also recorded sonar images of a crustacean estimated to be over 4 feet wide. It's been nicknamed the Reaper crab, and locals believe it's responsible for missing divers and vanished underwater drones. Though no specimen has been captured, comparisons have been made to the Japanese spider crab, but with a much thicker exoskeleton and higher aggression. Whatever it is, it doesn't like to be watched. It floats just beneath the surface, completely invisible, until it stings. In 2020, swimmers near St. Thomas reported painful burning stings despite no visible jellyfish in the water. One biologist took a water sample and found nearly invisible tentacles belonging to an unidentified species. Later dubbed Spectra medusa, this jellyfish seems to reflect and bend light to become nearly undetectable. Worse, its venom is unusually potent, causing paralysis in small fish and excruciating nerve pain in humans. One theory is that this creature may be a mutated version of the box jellyfish pushed into the Caribbean waters by shifting ocean currents. It's now one of the main reasons tourists are warned not to swim at night in that region. The morning after Hurricane Harvey sounded like a war zone until someone noticed a mouthful of daggers half buried in the mud. When birder Preeti Deze walked Texas City Beach to survey storm damage, she found what looked like a fanged sea snake curled in a crater of sludge. Twitter sleuthing reached Dr. Kenneth Teege at the Smithsonian, who identified the corpse as a fang-toothed snake eel, a deep-sea ambush predator usually hiding 100 meters or 330 feet down. Harvey's 12-foot surge and 800-mile-per-hour winds effectively vacuumed the eel from its burrow and launched it ashore. Biologists noted that the soft, scaleless skin meant the eel would have shredded easily without the storm's sudden hydraulic punch, making Harvey one of the only reasons we've ever seen this species topside. Forget Hollywood hoaxes. This time the shark thrashing through a front yard was verified frame by frame. As Ian's storm surge turned cul-de-sacs into canals, resident Dominic Cameretta shot cell phone footage of a dorsal fin carving across floodwater outside his window. Snopes, marine biologists, and the Associated Press reviewed the clip and matched its outline to a juvenile black tip or bull shark displaced by a 12-foot surge. The fish, around 4 feet long, likely entered the flooded estuary chasing mullet, then rode the surge inland. When the waters receded, the shark was flushed back toward the river, but not before racking up 20 million TikTok views. Imagine walking on empty seabed only to spot 2 one-ton mercows heaving for breath in the blazing sun. Hurricane Irma's low-pressure eye literally sucked Sarasota Bay out to sea, leaving bare mudflats and 2 adult manatees stranded like overturned trucks. Photos posted by locals went viral, summoning dozens of volunteers who rolled the 3-meter mammals onto tarps and slid them 100 meters back to deep water. Experts explained that rapid barometric drops can disorient manatees, which surface to breathe, and then they find the waterline suddenly gone. Thanks to quick community action, both animals survived, turning a potential tragedy into a feel-good rescue amid the Category 4 chaos. Anglers casting into chocolate brown surf suddenly watched a 16-foot shadow backflip beside the pier. 3 days after Hurricane Sally's eyewall shredded Alabama's coast, fishermen near Fort Morgan filmed a giant oceanic manta ray executing barrel rolls only 30 meters from shore. Normally roaming tropical open oceans, these giants follow plankton blooms. Sally's 20 inches of rain washed a banquet of nutrients into nearshore waters. Marine ecologists say the storm's churning mixed warm Gulf surface layers downward, creating the temperature gradient mantas prefer. The surprise cameo added storm-chasing manta to the list of Sally's bizarre side effects and offered researchers a rare northern Gulf sighting for the species tracking database. Lightning flashes, and in that split second you see a dinosaur coasting past your SUV. Tina Lambert Bennett's doorbell cam captured a 3.5 meter or 12-foot American alligator paddling down her flooded driveway as Hurricane Sally's surge peaked at 6 feet. Alligators tolerate brackish water for short periods, so coastal storms can lift them out of bayous and onto urban streets. Wildlife officials later tracked the reptile back to Little Lagoon marshland once waters subsided. A Reuters fact check traced the footage's origin after copycats falsely claimed it showed other storms, proof that Sally's viral gator remains the gold standard for see you later alligator content. Folklore says the sea gods send an oarfish before disaster. This one arrived just hours after a night of typhoon-driven waves. Villagers in Albi awoke to a 4-meter giant oarfish rippling like silver ribbon on the beach. The fish's fragile bones and scaleless body make it prone to injury from turbulent upwelling. Local legend claims oarfish herald earthquakes. Scientists counter that storm damage and pressure trauma are likelier culprits. Still, the rarity of seeing a deep-sea sea serpent alive made headlines worldwide, and fair enough. Seeing one of these things really makes you understand where the tales of sea serpents come from. Half the carcass was unfortunately sold at the fish market before biologists could secure samples, underscoring how quickly folklore can mix with fisheries when curiosity meets commerce.
Scientists exploring the Indian Ocean near the Cocos or Keeling Islands recently hauled up a deep-sea batfish, and this thing is honestly pretty weird. It's a flat pancake-shaped fish that actually walks across the ocean floor using its fins a bit like legs. It doesn't swim much like other fish, it kind of waddles and creeps along. One of the coolest things about it is its built-in lure on its head. It has this little fleshy rod that sticks out in front of its mouth, which it wiggles to trick smaller fish into swimming close enough to get snatched up. These batfish live in complete darkness at insane depths where the pressure would crush most creatures, but they've adapted to survive, moving slowly and conserving energy in a place where food is pretty hard to find. The one scientists found came from about 6 kilometers down, a part of the ocean floor that had barely been studied before. These creatures have been living down there totally unnoticed by humans, and chances are there's a lot more waiting to be discovered. And there was. On the same expedition, researchers discovered a blind eel that might be one of the strangest animals pulled out of the Indian Ocean. It's a soft-bodied eel with completely gelatinous, see-through skin. You can literally see its organs moving inside its body. It's wild to look at. It has no eyes at all because down there where it lives, about 5 kilometers below the surface, there's no light, so vision really isn't much help. Instead, it uses chemical signals and touch to find its way around, and unlike most fish, this eel gives birth to live young instead of laying eggs, which is pretty unusual for deep-sea creatures. Scientists said it was probably cruising around deep trenches and volcanic ridges, places that are basically untouched. A brand new species called however the hell this is pronounced, I'll just go by its nickname, the carnivore flapjack octopus, which was officially named in May of 2025 after being pulled up during a 2022 research cruise around Western Australia's Cocos and Carnarvon Canyon marine parks. So these little guys are about 4 centimeters across, not much bigger than a golf ball. They're soft, squishy, almost see-through with bright red tentacles and huge eyes that stand out in the deep darkness. They don't swim like your average octopus. Instead, they sort of pulse through the water, and they can flatten themselves to lie right on the sea floor. As you can see, they look kinda like pancakes, hence the name. Not a pancake I'd ever want to eat though. If I saw that on my plate, I'd be a little freaked out. In 2023, researchers working off the coast of Seychelles found 2 guitarfish species that were completely new to science. Guitarfish are weird looking to begin with. They got these flat bodies and long snouts. It almost looks like someone mashed a shark and a stingray together. But these 2 new ones stood out because they were hanging around coral reef areas much deeper than where most guitarfish usually live. Normally you'd find these guys in shallower sandy spots. Turns out though, there's a whole side of their world we didn't even know about, completely unnoticed until someone finally went looking. What's also worrying though is that guitarfish in general are in serious trouble. They're heavily overfished because their fins are used in shark fin soup. And since they live near the bottom, they get scooped up by trawlers all the time. Scientists are still trying to figure out how many of these newly found ones are out there and how bad the threats might already be. This next story is taking up 2 spots on the list. Deep down off the coast of Kerala, India, scientists recently discovered 2 new species of deep sea eels. These ones live in the dark, crushing depths of the ocean. There's barely any light down there. One of the species belongs to a family of eel which hadn't been reported from Indian waters before. Both eels are long, thin, kind of creepy looking. They're a bit pale, sort of like me. They were found during deep sea surveys looking for unknown ocean creatures. What's cool is how these eels survive down there. They've adapted to extreme cold and pressure, and their bodies are built for slipping through tight spaces in the seabed. Unlike shallow water eels, these deep sea versions probably feed on tiny crustaceans or leftover scraps that drift down from above. Because these things come from such deep, dark places, there's still a ton we don't know about their behavior or life cycles. Finding new eel species like this is a big deal though, since deep sea ecosystems are still mostly a mystery. Scientists just found something strange happening in one of the most important ocean systems on Earth, and they figured it out by studying clamshells. A team led by Beatriz Arellano Nava from the University of Exeter analyzed layers inside 2 species of North Atlantic clams, which basically record ocean conditions year by year, almost like tree rings. They found that the North Atlantic subpolar gyre, which is a massive swirl of ocean currents south of Greenland, has been acting weird for decades. It might be getting close to a breaking point. This swirl is part of a bigger system that moves warmer water up toward Europe, which is why the continent's winters are much milder than other places at the same latitude. But the clam data shows it's been acting weird since the 50s. According to Nava, the subpolar gyre was recently acknowledged as a tipping element, end quote. That means if it weakens too much, it could trigger, quote, more extreme weather events, particularly in Europe, and also changes in global precipitation patterns. The last time this system collapsed was during the 13th and 14th centuries, right before the Little Ice Age, when average temperatures dropped several degrees and rivers across Europe just froze solid. Scientists don't think that exact scenario will repeat, but it's still unsettling that the same kind of instability is showing up again. Next up, we have the strange phenomena of the Milky Sea. Sailors have talked about this phenomena for centuries. Entire stretches of the ocean glowing white, like someone just dumped a giant bucket of milk into the water. In 2006, a satellite image actually captured one south of Java that stretched for more than 9,000 square miles. Crews on passing ships described sailing through glowing water for hours, completely surrounded by light with no clear source. Scientists think that could be caused by bioluminescent bacteria that glow to attract fish and other sea life, but for reasons no one can fully understand, they sometimes all gather together across massive patches of ocean, all lighting up at once. And this can last for days, even weeks. So off the coast of Oregon, scientists came across something that they really weren't looking for. A strange underwater spring that seems to be leaking from deep inside one of the most dangerous earthquake zones on Earth. It's called Pythia's Oasis, and researchers from the University of Washington found it about 50 miles off Newport, Oregon, completely by accident. They're out on a research ship when their sonar picked up unexpected plumes rising from the seafloor. When they sent down a robot to check it out, they saw warm fluid shooting out of the ocean floor like a fire hose. Oceanographer Evan Solomon said he'd never seen anything like it before, and that, to his knowledge, no other scientist has either. The liquid was about 9 degrees Celsius or 16 degrees Fahrenheit, warmer than the surrounding water. Now, that might not sound like a whole lot, but it actually means it's coming from deep underground, around 2.5 miles down, right in the area where the Pacific Northeast's tectonic plates meet. The same spot that could one day unleash a massive earthquake. See, that liquid acts like a kind of lubricant between the tectonic plates. Solomon compared it to an air hockey table. When pressure is high, the plates can slip easily, but when fluid leaks out, friction starts to build up. There's a weird spot in the Indian Ocean where gravity is weaker than anywhere else on Earth. It's called the Indian Ocean Geoid Low, or sometimes just the gravity hole. It sits southwest of Sri Lanka, and if you could remove the ocean's tides and currents, the sea surface there would actually dip about 106 meters, that's over 300 feet, lower than normal. It was first found in 1948 by a Dutch scientist named Felix Andries Venning Menes, who was measuring gravity from a ship. Decades later, scientists still aren't totally sure what's causing it. A 2023 study used computer models and earthquake data found that when India split off from Africa millions of years ago, pieces of old ocean crust sank deep into the earth, while lighter, hotter rock rose up underneath. And that mix of heavy and light material could make gravity weaker in that area, but not everyone is convinced. Some scientists point out that this doesn't explain other weird gravity spots near Africa. So for now, this massive dip in Earth's gravity field is still one of the planet's biggest unsolved mysteries. And finally, in 2011, a Swedish dive team called Ocean X picked up something strange on sonar while searching for shipwrecks in the Baltic Sea. A perfectly circular object, about 200 feet wide, sitting 300 feet below the surface. The sonar showed clean geometric lines and what looked like almost a stair-type formation leading up one side. Team member Peter Lindbergh said the shape had straight edges and right angles, and that it didn't look like any natural rock he'd seen before. When they returned with an underwater robot, they said the surrounding seafloor even looked like a, quote, runway leading up to the object. Samples they collected were sent to scientists, and while most said they appeared to be natural rock, others did admit that something about this thing didn't add up. Marine archaeologist Goran Ekberg said, a natural geological formation can't be ruled out, but I agree the finding looks weird since it's completely circular. And Martin Jacobson, a marine geologist from Stockholm University, said he'd need, quote, more material before making an official statement. So, sure, it could just be an oddly shaped rock formation, but nobody's officially proven what the Baltic Sea anomaly really is. The coelacanth is a living fossil, a fish that's been around for over 400 million years, practically unchanged. But what I'm talking about today is a relatively recent discovery, first identified off the coast of Sulawesi in Indonesia in the early 90s. Unlike its famous cousin found near Africa, the Indonesian coelacanth lives in deep underwater caves and volcanic slopes in the Indonesian archipelago. These fish are huge, sometimes reaching over 6 feet long, and have weird lobed fins that look more like limbs than typical fish fins. That's part of what makes them so interesting for scientists. They give them clues about how fish might have evolved into the first land animals. Coelacanths are nocturnal, spend most of the day hiding in caves, coming out at night to hunt smaller fish and squid. Back in October of 2024, scientists off Madagascar Ridge identified a brand new skate species they're calling the brown long-nosed skate. So these things can grow over 70 centimeters long. They found 8 of them living way down, about 750 to 1,050 meters deep, swimming around one of the underwater mountains out there. What's pretty interesting is this skate might only live in that one specific area. That's not unusual for deep sea creatures, but it does make them pretty easy to miss and pretty easy to wipe out from fishing. Skates like this are slow growers. They don't reproduce quickly, and they tend to stick to the same places. The problem is, bottom trawlers have already been active in parts of this region, and if fishing pushes into the skate's territory, it could be in serious trouble before we even get a chance to study it properly. The wild part is this isn't some untouched part of the ocean. This is a place where people have been fishing for a while, and we're just now finding out that brown long-nosed skate was living there the whole time. That's pretty crazy. In late 2024, researchers exploring deep reef zones off the Maldives found a brand new species of damselfish called Chromis abida. It's a small, pale fish with this soft bluish shimmer to it. It's not the kind of thing that jumps out at you underwater. It blends in so well, which is probably why nobody noticed it until now. The fish was found hanging around mesophotic reefs, which are deep parts of the ocean where some sunlight still reaches, but not nearly as much as shallow reefs. Of course, they're also deeper than most people dive, usually about 100 to 150 meters down. These reef zones don't get a lot of attention, but they're packed with life. Scientists found this fish at a number of different sites, so it's not like it's super rare. It's just we haven't been looking in the right places. The ghostly damselfish, as it's known, probably spends most of its time darting in and out of cracks in the reef and hiding near sponges, staying away from predators. But the fact that such a common fish went unnoticed this long really makes you wonder how many other creatures are living down there, totally off our radar. Bigger, scarier, more dangerous ones. And scientists just recently identified a new species of shark called Etmopterus brose, or Barry's lantern shark. It was discovered by shark expert Dr. David Ebert and his team. This new species is part of a shark group called Atmoteris, which is actually one of the most diverse shark groups in the world, with around 42 different species known so far. This one lives way down in the Indian Ocean, off the west coast of South Africa, down around southern Mozambique and near the Madagascar Ridge. They live anywhere from 480 meters to 1200 meters, or about 1,570 to 3,940 feet below the surface. Now, for a long time, this shark was misidentified for other species. It looks very similar to other sharks in its family, but what sets it apart is its skin and markings. Its body is covered in something called dermal denticles. So these are tiny tooth-like scales that protect its body. On this shark, the denticles are especially thick and packed tightly around the base of its dorsal fin. It also has a cool setup on the underside of its snout, a patch of tiny receptors called ampullae. These are sensitive to electric fields and help the shark detect prey. Think of it as a kind of sixth sense, super handy when hunting in total darkness. When it comes to color, Barry's lantern shark has a more subtle look than some other sharks. Instead of a sharp line dividing its darker top and lighter belly, the colors kind of blend together more smoothly. It's mostly all dark. This probably helps it blend in better in the deep water. Off the coast of central California, there's a stretch of seafloor that's full of these mysterious holes. It's called the Sur Pockmark Field, about 500 square miles of strange, perfectly round craters. For years, scientists figured these holes, which are about 16 feet deep and up to 600 feet wide, were made by methane bubbles leaking up through the mud. That theory fell apart when researchers from the Monterey Bay Aquarium Research Institute, Stanford, and the United States Geological Survey sent underwater robots to actually check it out. There were over 5,200 craters, and each one was almost perfectly spaced apart. It was like someone had used a ruler to place them. Even stranger, when they dug into the seafloor, there was no trace of methane anywhere. What they found were layers of mud interrupted by sheets of sand, the kind that forms after huge underwater landslides called sediment gravity flows. Basically, something massive must have ripped through this area thousands of years ago, digging out the holes and then leaving sand and mud behind. The tops of the holes got covered again, but round shapes stayed, which is why you can still see them today. But according to scientist Eve Lunston, we were unable to determine exactly how these pockmarks were initially formed. So why the holes formed is still a mystery, but at least they've figured out why the holes are still visible. In August of 2023, a team aboard the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration ship Okeanos Explorer came across a mysterious golden dome stuck to a rock 2 miles under the Gulf of Alaska. One of the videographers on the dive first called it a yellow hat, but as the camera zoomed in, it looked more like an egg, a perfect little sphere about 4 inches wide, with a smaller tear near the bottom showing the same golden color inside. The crew had no idea what they were looking at. Some guessed it was a, quote, dead sponge attachment. Others thought coral, maybe an egg casing. Nobody could say for sure. They collected it using a suction tool on their underwater robot, and when the video went public, it blew up online. The news started calling it the Golden Orb. NOAA's Sam Candio said they know it's, quote, biological in origin, but that's about it. There's this strange light in the Pacific Ocean that Polynesian navigators have known about for hundreds and hundreds of years. They call it tilapia. It's described as a white flash or streak that shoots through the water, sometimes just under the surface, and somehow experienced sailors could follow it to find islands that were far beyond the horizon. Some people have called it underwater lightning. Others simply call it the flashing. But to this day, no one really knows what this light is. The first person to really bring tilapia to wider attention was David Lewis, who wrote a book called We the Navigators in 1972. He worked with traditional Polynesian sailors from remote islands who said tilapia could be seen up to 100 miles from land and always pointed in the direction of an island. Lewis described it as streaking, flickering, and darting, but never jagged like lightning. Later, a scientist named Marianne George, who studied tilapia alongside David Lewis, saw it for herself. She ruled out everything from glowing plankton to auroras to light reflections, basically every logical explanation. Back in the 1990s, NOAA's underwater microphones started picking up sounds that nobody could identify. Not whales, not ships, not earthquakes. These hydrophones were originally set up to track submarines during the Cold War, but once scientists started using them for ocean research, they started catching all sorts of strange noises. One of the most famous of these mysterious sounds is what's been called the upsweep. It's this repeating pattern of long, rising tones like a siren slowly winding up. It was first recorded in 1991 across the Pacific. It's not constant, but shows up strongest in spring and fall. NOAA still doesn't know exactly where it's coming from. And there's Julia, recorded in 1999. It's this eerie moan that lasted about 15 seconds. The sound was so powerful it was picked up by sensors thousands of miles apart. For years, people thought it might be a massive sea creature, but a lot of scientists now think it could have been an iceberg scraping against the seafloor. Still though, no one can prove it for sure. And then there's also the bloop. Recorded in 1997, it was loud enough to be detected by multiple hydrophones over 5,000 kilometers apart. This one had an organic quality about it that freaked a lot of researchers out. Today, most agree it probably came from ice quakes, the sound of huge chunks of glaciers breaking apart underwater, but again, no one can be 100% certain. Rogue waves are one of those things sailors used to talk about that no one really believed, until they started getting caught on camera. These aren't tsunamis or regular storm waves, they're single, massive walls of water that just come out of nowhere. They can reach over 80 feet high, sometimes doubling the size of any other wave around them. Ships have reported getting hit by waves so tall they crushed steel doors, snapped antennas, ripped entire bridges off tankers. For a long time, scientists thought these stories were exaggerated. Until 1995, when the Dropner oil platform in the North Sea recorded a rogue wave 84 feet tall on New Year's Day. What makes them so disturbing is that no one fully understands how they form. One theory is what's called nonlinear wave interference, where smaller waves suddenly sync up and kind of combine their energy into one massive wave. Kind of like in Power Rangers. All the Zords come together to form the Megazord. Anyway, when this happens, ocean currents and wind can make it even worse, focusing all that power in one place. But even with today's technology, we still can't predict when one will happen. They seem to just appear, and when they do, it's too late to avoid them. The odds of one forming should be almost zero based on normal wave statistics, yet they keep showing up. Cargo ships, cruise liners, and research vessels have been hit by these things. First up, we've got the coelacanth. This fish is seriously cool, but also a little creepy looking. What makes it so interesting is that it was thought to have been long extinct, gone for 65 million years alongside the dinosaurs, but then in 1938, fishermen off the coast of South Africa pulled one up, and boom, you had a live and kicking living dinosaur. These fish have been around for 360 million years, and honestly, you can kind of tell. They're huge, sometimes growing over 6 feet long. They have thick lobed fins that make them look, I don't know, it's just something really ancient looking about them. And here's something really cool. They seem to be a kind of link between sea creatures and land animals. The way their fins move is a bit like legs of amphibians, which hints that they could be a distant relative to the first creatures that crawled onto land. Coelacanths are still found today, mostly off the coast of Madagascar and around Indonesia, but there's no denying that they are one of the creepiest and coolest survivors from the past. The lamprey. These creatures are definitely one of the most terrifying things still swimming around today. There are lots of different types, but the one most people know about is the parasitic lamprey, which looks like a giant horrifying leech, and that's basically exactly what it is. They've been around for hundreds of millions of years, and they're as creepy as they sound. The lamprey is a parasitic species. It latches onto its victim with its circular sucker-like mouth, which is lined with rows and rows of sharp teeth, and once attached, it starts rasping away at its prey, eating its flesh to access all the red stuff inside, leaving these huge, ugly scars on their victims. Lampreys are some of the most primitive fish alive today. In fact, a lamprey fossil dating back 360 million years was found in 2006, making it a living fossil that scientists have used to study ancient evolution. The sea lamprey has earned a reputation as a pest in places like the Great Lakes in North America, where it kills many of the fish that it attaches itself to. Next on the list we have the pygmy right whale. This is one of the rarest whales you can find on Earth today, and they've been around for about 23 million years. They've only been spotted alive and at sea a handful of times, and because there aren't a large number of specimens and DNA for the animal to pull from, there's still a lot that science doesn't know about them. Exactly what they eat and how they behave is still a bit murky. They're very small, for whales anyway, only measuring about 21 feet in length. Yeah, only, but for a whale that is pretty small. They live in the cool waters of the southern hemisphere. They're said to have formed from baleen whales millions of years ago, and as rare as they are now, things may get even worse. As oceans continue growing warmer, the population of these whales is gonna drop even further. The nautilus. The nautilus is a mollusk that's lived in the sea for 500 million years, thriving during a time when the continents were still taking shape. Originally, there were 10,000 different species of this animal, but today only a few survive in the western Pacific Ocean and the coast of the Indian Ocean. Chambered nautilus, a specific type of the creature, use their 90 retractable suckerless tentacles equipped with are called chemonosensors to hunt for fish, crabs, and lobsters. The tentacles help them pick up food scents in their environment. Using a beak-like mouth, they pry open tough shells to access their prey. They also regulate the amount of water and air in their shell through an internal tube called a hyponome. These are such strange but really beautiful looking creatures. The striped markings on them, just very eye-catching. Hagfish. These are one of the most bizarre and ancient creatures still alive today. They've been around for over 300 million years, and just to put this into perspective, this means they were swimming around before dinosaurs came about. These things are often called slime eels. As for why, I'll get to that in a moment. Now, they aren't actually eels, and some scientists even question whether they should be classified as fish. One of the most fascinating things about the hagfish is its unique anatomy. They do have a skull, but they completely lack a spine. They also have 2 brains. And I don't think I've ever heard of a creature with 2 brains before. That's crazy. Hagfish spend their nights scavenging for food, feeding mostly on the carcasses of larger animals that sink to the ocean floor. They have a strong sense of smell, allowing them to locate food sources. In 2011, researchers made a pretty interesting discovery. Hagfish can actually absorb nutrients through their skin and gills. This makes them one of the only vertebrates known to have this ability. It's especially useful when food is scarce. It just increases the surface area available to absorb nutrients. But as promised, of course, we gotta get to the reason behind the slime eel nickname. Well, these things have the ability to produce this thick, sticky slime that can clog the gills of other fish, making it nearly impossible for them to be eaten. This defense mechanism is so effective that hagfish have virtually no natural enemies, making them one of the ocean's most resilient animals. Fields of red-tipped tubes waving in the darkness around scalding hydrothermal vents might not sound appealing, but giant tube worms have built entire communities out of these hellish conditions. These towering worm-like creatures, reaching over 6 feet long, have no mouths, no stomachs. Instead, they rely on bacteria cranking out energy from chemicals belching out of the Earth's crust. The result is a surreal scene straight out of an extraterrestrial meadow. Slender white cylinders crowned in bright crimson plumes, forming an alien-like garden hidden miles under the Pacific. They're proof that life doesn't just adapt, it thrives in places that would seem impossible by any normal standard. A pudgy body with ear-like fins that flop around in slow motion makes the Dumbo octopus a cross between a cartoon character and a visitor from a distant star system. Floating through the crushing depths with gentle flaps of its ears, this little weirdo doesn't bother hunting big flashy prey. It quietly scoops up morsels, drifting by as if savoring a quiet life at the edge of Earth's final frontier. Its gelatinous skin, soft curves, and calm demeanor feel too serene for such a harsh environment. Spotting one can feel like a blessing, a graceful reminder that even in the darkest corners of our planet's peaceful alien elegance can glide by without a care. A body so transparent you can see straight through to its insides sounds like a prank of nature. But glass squids take this quirk to the extreme. Hanging out in the Pacific's dim twilight zones, many species are almost entirely see-through, making them nearly invisible to predators and prey alike. Some light up with gentle glows, turning them into drifting lanterns. and a watery world that barely knows what sunlight is. Nothing screams otherworldly like an animal engineered by evolution to all but vanish into its surroundings. Whether shimmering faintly or gliding in ghostly silence, these squid operate on a level of natural stealth that would impress the most cunning extraterrestrial spy. And a creature that looks like a swollen, pale sausage strolling around on tiny, stubby legs is odd enough on land, but in the black depths of the Pacific seafloor, it's downright uncanny. The sea pig, a type of sea cucumber, gathers in huge herds, roaming the muddy bottom in search of sustenance. Their bloated bodies and wiggly little appendages make them seem less like earthly critters and more like aliens sent to terraform an unknown planet. They don't have eyes as we know them, and their methods of surviving down there remain partly mysterious. Watching them trundle by in groups can make the dark seafloor seem even stranger, as if you're stumbling into a secret alien migration that's been going on eons before anyone noticed. A structure so delicate and beautiful that it could pass for a handcrafted glass sculpture, Venus's flower basket sponge sets the bar high for otherworldly design. Found in the western Pacific, its intricate lattice work of silica spiculus forms a symmetrical mesh that would amaze any architect, human or otherwise. It's not just pretty. Tiny shrimp couples sometimes end up trapped inside, forming a lifelong partnership sealed in this gleaming fortress. That's right, an underwater sponge that doubles as a romantic prison, complete with its own bizarre social arrangement. This blend of art and biology, utility and elegance, makes it feel less like a mere organism and more like a living piece of alien technology left behind to inspire awe and confusion in equal measure. The lancetfish has a very prehistoric look. They got these sharp teeth and that big sail dorsal fin on the top, and this is its scientific name, Alepisaurus ferox. If I didn't know any better, I would think that was a dinosaur. These fish can get pretty big too. Some can grow up to 2 meters or about 6'6". They can be found in nearly all oceans except for the polar regions. They're aggressive hunters, feeding on smaller fish and squid, but they've also been known to eat members of their own species when no other options are around. I'd never heard about these guys until today, but I'm really glad that I've discovered them. They may be on my list of top 10 favorite fish now. I love the way they move through the water too. The sturgeon is another ancient creature that's been around since the early Jurassic period. Now, these fish are mainly known for being the source of caviar. They're unfortunately endangered today thanks to overfishing. Now, I didn't know how big these guys can get though. Some species of sturgeon can grow over 20 feet long, making them as large as a great white. Sturgeon feed on small animals from the ocean floor, and they're generally pretty harmless to humans, but just because of how massive they are, they can pose a threat. Unintended, but still, there have been cases where sturgeons have leapt out of the water and landed on boats, causing injury or, in rare cases, even death. The sawfish. Now, this is a pretty remarkable survivor from the Cretaceous period, and they are unfortunately also critically endangered today. We can find them in both saltwater and freshwater. It's even been spotted up to 100 kilometers inland in rivers and creeks. They can get pretty huge, growing up to 7 meters or 23 feet long. They do look like strange sharks, but they're actually more closely related to rays. You can kind of tell by their belly part. They look a bit like a stingray. Also, they have a really funny mouth. Anyway, their most distinctive feature is what can only be described as a chainsaw on their snout, which is not only a weapon, but also a highly sensitive organ, covered in what are called electrosensitive pores. The sawfish can detect prey even with poor eyesight. These things are generally pretty peaceful, despite having, a chainsaw in their face, but they can get dangerous if they're provoked. Fascinating fossil discovery also revealed that prehistoric sawfish were likely food sources for the massive carnivorous dinosaur Spinosaurus. They found vertebrae from a sawfish lodged in one of their teeth. The alligator gar. It's not actually an alligator, but a massive fish from the gar family, and it's one of the largest freshwater fish in North America. Found mostly in the southern United States, they're ancient creatures that have been around for about 100 million years. They can grow up to 10 feet long and weigh over 400 pounds. With their thick armored scales and their large fang-filled mouths, they do look more like a crocodile than a fish, or an alligator than a fish. There are plenty of photos of fishermen holding up these things, and sometimes it takes 2 fully grown men to hold one. In one incident, a man dangling his feet off a dock had an alligator gar latch onto his foot and try to pull him under the water. Now, fortunately, he did manage to escape, but there's a very good chance that these fish might have done this before, and that's the reason behind several mysterious drownings. And finally, we have tadpole shrimp. Picture a prehistoric sea-dwelling creature, and something like this is probably exactly what's going to come to mind. Tadpole shrimp are ancient crustaceans that have existed for an incredibly long time, dating back to the Triassic period, around 220 million years ago. They belong to the Notostraca group and have kept a remarkably unchanged appearance throughout their history. They're kind of crazy looking. They have this really cool shield-looking carapace that covers their bodies. Now, despite their ancient origins, they've continued to thrive in the modern world. They're adept at surviving in environments with fluctuating water levels, often appearing in habitats prone to temporary drying. They have a unique survival strategy during rough conditions too. In response to drought or other not so favorable environment factors, they enter a state of dormancy, forming cysts that protect them until conditions become suitable again. This is a large part of what's helped them endure for as long as they have. A head so transparent it reveals the mechanics of its own eyes is not exactly what you'd expect to find lurking in the depths of our planet, yet the barrel-eye fish is one of those creatures. Suspended in near total darkness, this odd little creature shows off a crystal clear dome that lets you watch its tubular eyes swivel around like tiny security cameras in its head. The rest of its body might seem ordinary at first glance, but that bizarre jelly-like forehead stands out as if some deep-sea alien engineer decided to skip a skull entirely. Scientists believe that this evolutionary quirk helps the barrel-eye track prey by looking straight upward through its own head, as if the fish is wearing a see-through helmet, giving a full tour of its internal gears and making every other animal look downright basic in comparison. A gruesome grin and a glowing rod dangling from the forehead wouldn't look out of place on a sci-fi movie poster, yet that's exactly what the female deep-sea anglerfish wields down in the blackest corners of the Pacific, with a built-in headlamp that lures unsuspecting prey right into a gaping mouth bristling with needle-like teeth. This predator turns the concept of subtlety on its head. Stranger still, the males are tiny and latch onto the females permanently, losing their individuality to fuse like bizarre biological accessories. The result is a creature so outlandish and weird, so unearthly, that calling it a monster feels almost too generous. It's more like a living lesson in just how weird nature can get when no one's watching. A snout extending out like a flattened blade and jaws that shoot forward like a horror movie trap give the goblin shark a look that belongs in a galaxy far, far away. Not far enough though, because it's here on Earth. Often hauled up unexpectedly from submarine canyons, this pinkish predator seems more myth than marine. Its skin is pale and ghostly, and it can flip its jaw out so fast it's hard to believe it's even attached. Paleontologists call it a living fossil, but the term almost sells it short. This shark's ancient lineage feels like a cryptic message from another era, if not another world. In a deep ocean filled with outlandish creatures, the goblin shark stands out as the weirdo that even other bizarre species probably whisper about. The vampire squid, a creature with a name that dramatic, better have the looks to back it up, and the vampire squid delivers, draped in velvety red membranes and sporting eyes that glow with an unsettling blue. It floats through low oxygen zones that would kill most other animals. While it's actually a gentle scavenger, its sinister silhouette, faintly illuminated by its own bioluminescent spots, creates the illusion of a winged phantom drifting through alien waters. The vampire squid's ability to survive where few others dare suggests that it's figured out secret deep-sea hacks that border on the supernatural. It might not suck BLOOD, but it sure knows how to keep a haunting vibe going in the darkest corners of our planet's oceans. The Yeti crab. If a sculptor tried to craft a crustacean after hearing only vague rumors of Earth life, they might come up with the Yeti crab. Discovered scuttling around thermal vents in the Pacific, this ghost white crab sports hairy, furry-looking claws that serve as cozy homes for bacteria. Instead of shying away from inhospitable vent fluids, it thrives there, forging a partnership with microbes that might as well be cooking up gourmet meals just for it. Between its freaky fuzzy arms and its uncanny pale body, the Yeti crab feels more like a prototype of an alien line of designer pets than a real-life Earth species. Seeing one can be startling, like a cryptid come to life, or a secret experiment escaped from a hidden underwater lab. Imagine reeling in a fish that was supposed to have been dead for 66 million years. Well, that's what happened in 1938 when a South African fisherman unknowingly pulled in a coelacanth, a prehistoric fish that scientists thought had gone extinct right alongside the dinosaurs. How insane would that have been? This living fossil has changed almost nothing in hundreds of millions of years. Unlike typical fish, the coelacanth has lobed fins with bone structures that almost look like primitive legs, and some researchers think they sorta kinda are, in that they may be this evolutionary bridge between sea creatures and the first land-walking vertebrates. Even weirder, they don't swim like normal fish. Instead, they sorta walk through the water, moving each fin in a coordinated way that kinda mimics four-legged animals. And oh yeah, they also glow. Their scales contain a type of bioluminescence that gives them an eerie, ghostly blue shimmer. Even now, coelacanths are incredibly elusive, found only in deep waters off of Africa and Indonesia. They also live pretty long, up to 100 years, maybe even more, and they give birth to live young after an absurdly long gestation period. Scientists estimate it takes up to 5 years for baby coelacanths to develop inside their mother, so they're really strange animals. If deep sea creatures had horror movie, the lancetfish would be at the top of the list. These nightmarish predators have long, ribbon-like bodies, oversized dorsal fins that run nearly their entire length, and razor-sharp needle-like teeth that jut out even when its mouth is closed. It's the kind of fish that looks like it shouldn't exist, and yet it does, lurking in the twilight zone of the ocean. One of the strangest things about the lancetfish is their diet, or lack of digestion to be more accurate. When scientists have studied their stomach contents, they've found whole, undigested prey inside, as if these fish have no real digestive system at all. It gives them an almost undead-like quality, as if they're constantly eating but never fully breaking down their food. Lancetfish are also hermaphrodites, meaning they have both male and female reproductive organs, which makes them even more unique. And here's another strange little fact. Even though the lancetfish live so deep down, they've been found washed up on beaches fully intact, leaving researchers wondering why they suddenly appear on land. Are they dying off because of some unknown environmental factor, or are they being forced to the surface by something even scarier lurking down in the deep? The discovery of the megamouth shark in 1976 was an accident, and one that left scientists amazed. This deep-sea giant, reaching up to 18 feet long, has one of the strangest appearances of any shark species. It's got this massive, gaping mouth that looks like it belongs to some extinct sea monster. Unlike most sharks, the megamouth doesn't hunt with speed or brute force. Instead, it swims slowly with its enormous mouth wide open, filtering tiny plankton and jellyfish from the water. It's a bizarre feeding method for a shark, more like a whale than a predator. What also makes the megamouth so terrifying is that we simply don't know a whole lot about it. This species was completely unknown to science until 1976, when one accidentally got caught in a US Navy ship's anchor line, and since then only a few dozen have ever been seen. That means a giant deep-sea shark was swimming around the world's oceans completely undetected for who knows how long, proving just how little we really know about what lurks deep down in the ocean. The chambered Nautilus is basically a time capsule from 500 million years ago. Unlike most modern sea creatures, this relic has remained virtually unchanged since even before the age of the dinosaurs. It survived multiple mass extinctions and ice ages, making it one of the toughest survivors in the history of the planet. But what makes the Nautilus kinda eerie is its design. Its shell follows the Fibonacci sequence, and for those who are unfamiliar, the Fibonacci sequence is a mathematical pattern found in galaxies, hurricanes, and even in human DNA. Is this just an evolutionary coincidence, or is there something more mysterious going on? Some believe that this natural spiral represents a form of perfection, almost as if it were intentionally crafted by some unknown force. Now, unlike squids and octopuses, its distant relatives, the nautilus lacks complex intelligence, but it makes up for it with one of the most efficient buoyancy control systems in the animal kingdom. It fills and empties its shell with gas to move up and down, allowing it to hover in this eerie, slow motion stillness. And how does it spot danger while living so deep down? Well, it has these large alien-like eyes that it uses to detect even the faintest movement in near total darkness. The goblin shark. This gorgeous deep-sea cutie has a grotesquely elongated snout, rubbery pinkish gray skin, and its most breathtaking feature, that inviting mouth. Just look at those jagged needle-sharp gnashers and tell me that you wouldn't want to kiss. Those jaws launch forward, by the way, like a projectile to grab their prey. First discovered in the late 19th century, the goblin shark remained a mystery for decades, rarely surfacing from its deep-sea habitat. Then, as commercial deep-sea fishing started to expand, more of them started appearing and showing just how bizarre this creature really is. Its hunting method is really cool, aside from the alien xenomorph jaw snap thing. See, instead of chasing its prey, the goblin shark senses electrical signals in the water using specialized organs in its snout, which is nuts. And then when an unsuspecting fish or squid swims by, its entire jaw explodes forward, grabbing its prey before snapping back into place. It's basically a biological harpoon, and it works so fast that high-speed cameras are needed to capture the movement. The goblin shark is a living relic, a species so ancient that it dates back over 125 million years, and I bet a lot of the animals that have to deal with it wish that it would have just stayed there. Hafgufa is a creature that has its roots in Norse mythology, described as a giant sea monster, often said to be the size of a whole island, lurking in the waters of the North Atlantic. Some stories depict it as a whale-like creature, others say it's a type of sea serpent. It's often associated with the kraken, and some believe they could be the same creature, just with different interpretations. According to the sagas, Hafgufa is so large that its movements could stir up dangerously huge waves, making it a threat to sailors in the region. In fact, it was said that it could swallow entire ships whole with just one gulp. The name Hafgufa is believed to come from Old Norse, meaning sea gulp, which of course fits perfectly with the idea of this creature swallowing anything in its path. Organism 46b is a mysterious creature that became famous after being allegedly discovered in Antarctica, described as a massive, shape-shifting octopus-type being, said to be able to manipulate its surroundings with its tentacles. Some reports even claim that it can hypnotize its prey, paralyzing them with this strange mind-controlling ability. The creature was supposedly discovered by a Russian scientific expedition in 2004. They were investigating the icy waters beneath the Antarctic ice shelf. According to the tale, the team encountered this creature in a submerged lake, with the monster being able to grow to over 30 feet long. The creature is said to have the ability to mimic other creatures, allowing it to blend into its environment or appear as a completely different organism to fool predators or prey. The whole thing got attention after an expedition member supposedly shared the tale online, but there's still no solid proof. It's become something of a Russian government cover-up conspiracy. The Ningen is one of the most bizarre creatures in modern cryptozoology. Allegedly, it lives in the icy waters around Antarctica. Most reported sightings come from Japanese sailors. The Ningen is described as a humanoid sea creature with this pale white body that some say resembles a giant twisted version of a human. That's what makes this thing so creepy. The creature is said to be massive, often reported to be around 20 to 30 meters long or 65 to 98 feet, with a head, arms, and legs, but no real distinct facial features. The first report came about in the early 2000s when Japanese fishermen and crew members of research ships started talking about sightings of this bizarre thing. Some say they've seen it swimming near the ship or breaching the surface like a whale. What makes the Ningen so creepy isn't just its size or its appearance, but the way it seems to avoid any form of human contact, keeping its distance and vanishing as quickly as it appears. The Kraken is one of the most infamous sea monsters in folklore, often depicted as this giant octopus or squid type thing that terrorizes sailors by dragging entire ships under the sea. The legend dates back to the 18th century. Stories of a colossal creature lurking off the coasts of Norway and Greenland. Like with many legendary creatures, there are different descriptions, but it's usually said to be so massive that its tentacles can reach out and capsize ships with a single swipe. Some sailors even reported seeing the Kraken's huge arms rise above the surface like a massive wall, causing a storm of panic before the ship was dragged into the deep. The Kraken seems about as outlandish as it gets, but here's the thing. It may not actually be pure fiction. Some think that what these sailors were describing may have actually been giant squids, which can grow to over 40 feet long. The Leviathan. Pretty much the ultimate sea monster, one that's haunted our collective imagination for centuries, even if we don't know it. It comes from ancient texts, most famously the Bible, where it's depicted as this fearsome sea serpent, which has really become the archetype for all monstrous sea creatures. The description varies depending on who's telling the story, but it's often depicted as this enormous dragon-like beast with scales tough enough to withstand the toughest of weapons. Some tales paint it as a creature of chaos, one that could swallow ships whole or cause storms to wreck entire fleets. The name Leviathan comes from the Hebrew Bible, where it's described as an ancient creature of the deep, sometimes associated with destruction and darkness. Over the centuries, it's been linked to the sea itself, a symbol of the unknown and the powerful forces of nature that sailors feared most. Look at this diver being stalked by a tiger shark. The tiger shark is one of the most dangerous deep-sea predators out there. It's known for its aggressiveness and the fact that it'll eat pretty much anything it can catch, from fish to sea turtles to even garbage. They're often called the garbage cans of the sea because of how indiscriminate their eating habits are. Tiger sharks can grow up to 18 feet long, and their jaws are packed with serrated teeth, perfect for slicing through tough materials like turtle shells. They've been known to attack humans, but their bites are usually just curious nibbles. Even so, they're big, they're powerful. If one got it in its head that it wanted to try tearing you apart, it absolutely could. So it's not a good idea to mess with one. In terms of habitat, tiger sharks are found in tropical and subtropical waters, often in deeper spots where there's plenty of food around. Mantis shrimp are absolutely terrifying little creatures, even though they're not that big. These crustaceans have one of the fastest and most powerful strikes in the animal kingdom. Footage of their punches needs to be slowed down in order to truly appreciate. Their limbs are capable of moving at speeds of 50 miles per hour, faster than a bullet leaving a firearm. They can smash open shells, break glass, they can knock fish unconscious or just kill them in an instant. In some cases, their strikes are so powerful they can create shock waves in the water. And it sounds like I'm making this part up, but the punch from a mantis shrimp can even generate light, creating this flash so intense that it can stun smaller prey. So yeah, they don't look all that intimidating. They're small and they're also shrimp, but these are incredibly dangerous hunters. They can take out much larger and stronger animals with their anime level power blows. Lizardfish, as you can probably tell, are not the cutest looking animal. They're known for having a pretty nightmarish predatory appearance with sharp teeth and eerie lizard-like faces. These creatures are built for hunting in the deep, dark waters where there's barely any light and food can be tough to find. Lizardfish are experts at lurking on the ocean floor, blending in so well that unsuspecting fish don't usually see them coming. With their long, sharp teeth, they're great at grabbing and holding on to any prey that gets too close. They can grow up to around 3 feet long, and while sure they may not be the largest predators, their aggressiveness and lightning-fast attacks makes them pretty threatening. They're also known for their viciousness, tearing into their prey with a speed that's hard to see in real time. Look at this huge hammerhead swing right up to a beach. Lucky no one was in the water when this guy showed up. The hammerhead sharks might look a little strange with their wide teeth T-shaped heads, but make no mistake, they're incredibly efficient predators. That bizarre head shape they have gives them a full 360-degree view of their surroundings, and you probably don't need me to tell you that that's a big advantage. If you're anywhere near one of these things, they most likely see you. Hammerheads usually hunt in deeper waters, where they can use their enhanced vision to locate stingrays and other bottom-dwelling creatures. Their heads are also loaded with sensors that help them detect electric fields made by prey in the water, so they can detect and spot prey very efficiently, but we haven't even talked about their other assets yet: size, strength, and teeth. Some species, like the great hammerhead, can grow over 20 feet long, and their powerful jaws are capable of crushing bones and tearing through tough hide. Sperm whales are the giants of the deep ocean, and while they're not necessarily a threat to humans, they are one of the most dangerous predators to other deep-sea creatures. First of all, they're the largest toothed predators on Earth. They can grow up to 60 feet long. They mostly hunt squid, and that includes giant and colossal squid. Using echolocation, sperm whales can hunt prey in total darkness, deep beneath the waves. They can dive to depths of over 3,000 feet and stay submerged for over an hour, making them the ultimate deep-sea hunters. I mentioned that they hunt giant squid. Well, giant squid and sperm whales are pretty much arch enemies, constantly at war. They have fierce battles with squid, using their massive jaws and powerful teeth to tear them apart. But it's not like the giant squids don't fight back. They'll try to overwhelm the whales by wrapping their tentacles around them. I think the whales usually get the upper hand though. Humans rarely interact with sperm whales in the wild, but they're dangerous to anything they consider food. Their strength and intelligence makes them one of the most terrifying predators in the ocean, capable of overpowering almost anything in their path. Alright, let's talk about sturgeon. You might be thinking, a sturgeon? Really? That's just, a big fish. But the thing is, these fish are pretty much prehistoric monsters. Some species, like the beluga sturgeon, can grow over 20 feet long and weigh more than 3,000 pounds. That's too much. Too many pounds. That's the size of a small boat, and their armored, bony bodies make them look like something that should have died out with the dinosaurs, but no, they're still swimming around in the depths of rivers and oceans, an animal that's barely changed in over 200 million years. People have mistaken them for sea serpents for centuries, and honestly, it's not hard to see why. There have been reports of massive, shadowy creatures surfacing in lakes and rivers, only for it to turn out to be an absolutely enormous sturgeon. And because some species live for over 100 years, you might just run into the same one that your great-grandparents saw, which is pretty cool. Now we're gonna get a little outlandish, but hear me out. The plesiosaur. It's supposed to be extinct. That's what scientists say, but for over a century, people have been spotting long-necked, flippered creatures in waters all around the world. Loch Ness, Lake Champlain, the oceans off Japan. Even experienced sailors and fishermen have reported seeing something that looks an awful lot like a living plesiosaur. One of the most famous cases may be the 1977 Zuyo-Maru incident, where Japanese fishermen off the coast of New Zealand hauled up this bizarre rotting carcass that looked a lot like, well, a dead plesiosaur. Scientists quickly dismissed it as a decomposed basking shark, but some researchers just weren't buying this. The shape, the flippers, the long neck, it was all just a little too uncanny. If someone told you a sea serpent was caught on camera, your first thought would probably be like, meh, maybe, I guess. But then you see the frilled shark and suddenly you're not so sure anymore. Like, I guess, yeah, sea serpents do exist. The thing is pure nightmare fuel. It's got an eel-like body, rows of needle-sharp teeth, and a mouth that looks way too big for its head. It's been around for 80 million years and has barely changed at all, which tends to be the case for some of Earth's ugliest, creepiest animals for whatever reason. The frilled shark usually stays deep underwater, but every now and then, one turns up near the surface. One was caught off the coast of Japan in 2007, and let's just say it didn't do anything to calm people's fears about what might be lurking in the abyss. Scientists say it's harmless to humans, but honestly, if you saw one of these things swimming toward you, would you really care? You'd have a mini heart attack regardless. Now, horseshoe crabs don't look that scary at first. They're just weird, alien-looking creatures that have been roaming the Earth for around 450 million years. But when you realize they've survived multiple mass extinctions, including the one that wiped out the dinosaurs, you start to wonder what kind of deal they made with the universe. Have horseshoe crabs been the key to life all along? Well, here's something really cool. Their BLOOD is blue, and I mean bright blue. And it has its uses, other than keeping the crabs alive, obviously. It's used in the biomedical industry. They harvest it to test for bacterial contamination in vaccines. So yeah, not only did these things outlive the dinosaurs, they're also aiding in modern medicine. Scientists still don't fully understand how they've managed to stick around for so long. Whatever they're doing though, it's working because they barely changed in 500 million years. And finally, if there ever was a real-life sea monster, it's the giant squid. For centuries, sailors have spun tales about this massive tentacled beast dragging ships under the waves, but no one really believed them. Then in the early 2000s, scientists finally got proof giant squids were real, and they were just as terrifying as the legends made them out to be. These deep-sea giants can grow over 40 feet long, and their eyes, some of the biggest in the animal kingdom, are specifically adapted to see in the pitch-black depths of the ocean. They use their long, lightning-fast tentacles to snatch up their prey, and their beaks are so strong they tear apart just about anything they catch. And let's not forget about their arch nemesis, the sperm whale. Deep-sea battles between these two have been going on for who knows how long, and sometimes washed-up whale carcasses show up covered in these massive sucker marks, proof that these fights aren't just tales told by sailors. Even now, we barely know anything about giant squids. They just live so deep that almost everything we've learned has come from dead specimens or very rare footage. There could be Godzilla-sized ones deep down in the ocean. Who knows? The Yeti crab was first discovered in 2005 in the South Pacific Ocean, deep around hydrothermal vents near New Zealand. What makes it so strange is that its claws are covered in a sort of fuzzy hair, but it's not actually hair, it's bacteria. Scientists think the bacteria might help process the sulfur in the water, which is an important nutrient for the crab, but it's hard to say for sure. The fact that they survive in one of the harshest ecosystems known to science is pretty cool though. The crab's habitat is one of the most extreme environments on Earth, with scalding temperatures, high pressure, but the Yeti crab thrives in it, and it kind of looks like an animal that fits right at home in an environment like this. It's pale and ghostly with spindly legs, which gives it a sort of haunting look, and it's not hard to see how it gets its name, of course. The strange fuzzy appearance and the white color makes it sort of look like the mythical furry Himalayan Yeti. The deep-sea spider crab lives at depths where sunlight never reaches, and thank God for that, because just look at this thing. These are slow-moving scavengers with long legs that can stretch over 3 feet, and while that's not exactly giant by deep-sea standards, it's pretty big for something as freaky looking as this. Its long limbs make it look otherworldly, and it kinda does live in another world. They're usually found on the seafloor scavenging for dead animals or whatever else they can find. What really sets these guys apart from the other deep-sea crabs is those legs, which are disproportionately long compared to the rest of their body, which you probably don't need me to tell you. Their body looks about the size of a large hamburger, but their legs are massive. They look like they belong to a completely different animal. It's hard to tell if these long legs are for efficiency in getting around, or if they just look that way because of the extreme pressure and low food availability this deep down. Just makes their bodies all weird. I don't know. These things aren't really aggressive, but they definitely look freaky. Thankfully, the vampire squid doesn't suck BLOOD, but it's certainly got a name that brings up some pretty creepy images. It's a small cephalopod that lives in the oxygen-deprived waters of the deep ocean, about 250 to 2,500 feet down. The vampire squid gets its name from its dark, velvety body and red eyes, which make it look like, well, a vampire squid. They look kinda intimidating, but they're not as scary as they seem. It doesn't actively hunt for other animals. Instead, it survives by feeding on plankton and marine detritus, which is the decaying organic material like dead plants and animals that sink down to the ocean floor. One of the most interesting things about it is that unlike other squid species, it doesn't expel ink as a defense mechanism. Instead, it releases this bioluminescent mucus to confuse predators. The deep sea hatchetfish is a small, flat fish that lives deep down in the ocean, around 200 to 1,000 meters or 650 to 3,280 feet down. Its body is laterally compressed and shaped like a hatchet, which is of course where it gets its name. The body shape, combined with the fact that it's bioluminescent, helps it blend in with the faint light from above. Hatchetfish have large eyes designed to capture even the smallest amount of light from above, and they use their glowing undersides to make themselves harder to spot from below. The hatchetfish is another one of those creatures that on its own isn't that terrifying. They're very small, they pose zero threat to humans, but they have a kind of unsettling appearance. It's something about their downturned mouths and their semi-translucent looking bodies. They look a bit like tormented ghosts. And in its natural habitat, it's a master of staying out of sight while lurking in the depths. It's just a really cool creature. The black dragonfish is an almost mythical looking deep sea predator, or like something that would pop out of your chest in the far reaches of space. It has long, sharp teeth, a bioluminescent barbell hanging from its chin, and this sleek black body designed to blend into the darkness of the sea. These things just look mean. Found at depths of about 200 to 2,000 meters or 650 to 6,050 feet, it's a vicious hunter that uses its glowing barbell to lure in prey. They're ambush predators, taking advantage of the pitch black environment to surprise their victims. Yes, the glowing orb is very noticeable, but the stupid fish don't notice the horrific monster attached to it. And the black dragonfish doesn't just look scary, its teeth are sharp and curved backward, making it easier to trap prey once they're close enough. Next on the list is the deep sea hatchetfish. This fish looks pretty cool, but also incredibly strange. Thank God these things are so small, because just imagine that horrifying face, but like the size of a whale. They look like frowning ghosts. The deep sea hatchetfish is a small fish that lives in the deep, dark parts of the ocean, like the Mariana Trench. It has a very unique hatchet-shaped body and a hatchet-like metallic color, which helps it blend in with its surroundings. And they glow. The hatchetfish can control how bright it glows though. It uses its bioluminescence both for communicating with other fish and for attracting prey. Let's talk about the fangtooth fish next. Fangtooths are some of the scariest looking creatures you'll find in the Mariana Trench. They're small, but their teeth are absolutely massive compared to the size of their bodies. These fish have a very simple body design, a long cylindrical shape that's built for life in the deep. But what really makes them stand out is their huge, sharp teeth. In fact, their teeth are so big that when they close their mouths, the teeth don't fit all the way inside, so they just kind of stick out. Aside from their terrifying appearance though, these fish aren't very dangerous. They feed on other small fish and invertebrates that live in the deep ocean. Again, just glad these things are about 6 inches long instead of 6 feet. Some things are just too ugly to be any bigger than they are. No offense to the fangtooths in the audience. Next on the list is the deep sea dragonfish. This creature is pretty incredible, partly because it's got some crazy bioluminescence going on. The dragonfish can produce its own light, which helps it in the pitch black depths where it lives. The light comes from these little organs called photophores that line its body. But what's even cooler is that the dragonfish has a big long chin with a light producing organ at the end of it. It uses this to lure prey right into its mouth. The dragonfish also has some seriously terrifying teeth. They look like something straight out of a monster movie. Again, might not be the biggest fish in the deep, but it definitely looks like one you'd want to avoid if you were swimming down there. Here are 3 words that don't sound very appealing placed right next to one another. Giant toxic amoebas, or GTAs. Scientists call them xenophyophores. How would you feel about running into a 4-inch long amoeba? Probably not great. These guys are found all over the Mariana Trench though, and they're huge for a reason. The extreme cold, insane pressure, and the complete lack of sunlight make the conditions perfect for these single-celled organisms to grow to pretty gigantic sizes. They're incredibly tough survivors. They've adapted to become super resistant to a bunch of harmful stuff that would kill pretty much anything else, including us humans. They can tolerate uranium, mercury, lead, and other dangerous substances which would be lethal to us. These toxic amoebas have been found at crazy depths of up to 6.5 miles or 10.6 kilometers underwater, and scientists wouldn't be shocked if they find more of them even deeper one day. And finally, we've got the Mariana snailfish, a species that was discovered in 2014 and holds the title for being the deepest living fish. It lives at nearly 27,000 feet below the surface, over 5 miles deep. The pressure down there is so intense that it would crush a human in seconds. This ghostly white fish looks soft and squishy, kind of cute, like it might even melt if you touched it, but somehow these things survive in one of the harshest, most unforgiving environments on Earth. The snailfish's body is incredibly adaptable, allowing it to survive where most other creatures wouldn't last a minute. Even though it looks delicate though, it's a top predator in its world, feasting on tiny crustaceans and other prey. Its flexible blob-like body lets it squeeze into tight spaces, hunting in places that other fish could never reach.
Starting off in our number 10 spot, we have the U-28 creature. During World War I, on a day that defied all logic, the German submarine U-28 sank the British steamer SS Iberian off the coast of Ireland. As the crew watched the ship disappear beneath the waves, an underwater explosion suddenly blasted a colossal creature into the air. This wasn't a figment of weary sailors' imaginations. The creature resembled a giant crocodile about 60 feet long, complete with 4 limbs and a long, pointed tail. For a fleeting 10 to 15 seconds, the stunned crew stood in awe as this marine behemoth arced above the sea before vanishing into the depths. The captain's account, published years later in 1935, sparked controversy due to the lack of corroborating evidence and the decades-long silence. But whether myth or reality, his story adds a thrilling chapter to the tales of unbelievable sea monsters that sailors swore were real. Could the oceans still hide such mysteries? In our number 9 spot today, we have the Gloucester sea serpent. Back in the summer of 1817, in the quiet town of Gloucester, Massachusetts, it was buzzing with tales that would make any sailor's hair stand on end. Hundreds of fishermen, sailors, and townsfolk claimed they saw a massive sea serpent slithering through the harbor's waters. This wasn't just a fish story. The creature was said to be over 100 feet long, sporting a series of humps and a snake-like head that looked oddly like a mix between a turtle and a horse, which I'm not really sure what that would look like. It moved with a graceful yet eerie serpentine motion and was even spotted coiled up at times. The excitement and fear were so real that the Linnean Society of New England jumped in, forming a committee to get to the bottom of it. They collected eyewitness accounts and even examined what they thought was a baby sea serpent, which unfortunately just turned out to be a deformed black snake. Despite the setback, the Gloucester sea serpent became one of the most well-documented sea monster sightings in American history. So, were all of these folks just seeing things, or was there really something colossal lurking beneath the waves? In our number 8 spot today, we have the HMS Plumper Sea Serpent. In 1857, the crew of the HMS Plumper, led by Captain George Henry Richards, had an encounter that would etch itself into maritime legend. While charting the waters off Vancouver Island, British Columbia, sailors spotted something extraordinary slicing through the waves. It was an enormous creature, estimated to be a staggering 100 feet long, with a head resembling a dog's and large, unsettling eyes that seemed to observe them just as keenly. Humps rose along its massive back as it moved swiftly against the current, defying everything they knew about sea creatures. The sight was so compelling that Captain Richards documented it in his official logs, and local newspapers quickly picked up the story. This wasn't just sailors' lore whispered over grog, it was a well-recorded event that added a thrilling chapter to sea serpent tales along the Pacific Northwest coast. In our number 7 spot today, we have the Valhalla sea serpent. In 1905, while sailing off the coast of Brazil aboard the yacht Valhalla, naturalists Edmund Meade Waldo and Michael J. Nicol experienced a moment that felt like stepping into a living legend. They spotted an unusual creature cutting through the water. A large fin rose about 6 feet above the waves, and atop that, a long neck extended another 8 feet into the air. The animal moved steadily, its mysterious form captivating the two men as it glided silently before disappearing after a few minutes. What makes this sighting particularly compelling is who these observers were. Both Meade Waldo and Nicol were respected fellows of the Zoological Society of London. Their detailed account was published in the Proceedings of the Zoological Society of London, igniting widespread discussions about the unknown marvels lurking beneath the ocean's surface. Could this have been a real-life sea serpent, a creature sailors had whispered about for centuries? In our number 6 spot today, we have the Monongahela sea serpent. In 1852, the American clipper ship Monongahela, under the command of Captain John Meny, became the center of one of the most astonishing sea tales ever recounted. While sailing through the remote stretches of the South Pacific, the crew reportedly harpooned and killed an enormous sea serpent. This wasn't just any sea creature, the beast was said to be over 100 feet long, with a head resembling an alligator and a body cloaked in glistening scales. The sailors managed to secure the massive carcass alongside their ship, likely imagining the sensation it would cause back home. But destiny took a dramatic twist. Before they could reach port, a fierce storm rolled in, and with it, their colossal catch was swept back into the abyss. News of their incredible encounter hit the newspapers, stirring up a mix of excitement and doubt. Lacking any physical proof, many people questioned the veracity of their story, suggesting it might have been an oversized sea snake or perhaps just an exaggerated fisherman's yarn. Nonetheless, the tale of the sea serpent remains one of the most intriguing accounts of unbelievable sea monsters that old sailors claimed were real. Who knows? Maybe the ocean still guards secrets that are yet to surface. In our number 5 spot today, we have Captain George Drever's sea serpent. In 1875, Captain George Drever of the bark Pauline found himself at the center of one of the most gripping sea monster tales ever recorded. On July 8th, while navigating the vast expanse of the South Atlantic, Captain Drever and his crew witnessed an extraordinary battle unfolding on the ocean's surface. A colossal creature with a long, eel-like body stretching about 30 feet or 9 meters, and a large head topped with 2 dorsal fins, was entwined around a massive whale. The mysterious beast coiled itself tightly as the whale thrashed violently, sending waves crashing and hearts racing aboard the Pauline. The sheer intensity of the struggle left the crew in awe, and Captain Drever didn't let the moment slip into obscurity. He penned a detailed report and even sketched the creature, with his account later published in the Zoologist Journal. While modern interpretations suggest they might have just witnessed a giant squid engaging the whale, misidentified due to the distance and the tumultuous conditions, the vividness of Drever's description keeps the debate alive. Was it a misunderstood encounter or a genuine sea serpent? Either way, this remarkable incident adds a thrilling chapter to the lore of unbelievable sea monsters. In our number 4 spot today, we have the USS Stein incident. In 1978, the USS Stein, a Knox-class frigate of the US Navy, was cruising through the Pacific Ocean when something extraordinary happened. The ship's sonar system began malfunctioning, and when the crew investigated, they found the sonar dome, the protective cover beneath the ship, had been seriously damaged. Technicians were baffled to discover the dome was covered in long, sharp scratches with hooked, claw-like structures embedded in the rubber coating. These weren't marks from rocks or man-made objects. They seemed almost alive. Experts speculated that a giant squid, possibly a species larger than any previously recorded, had attacked the sonar dome, perhaps mistaking it for a rival or potential prey. This incident provided some of the most compelling physical evidence of encounters with massive, rarely seen marine creatures creatures and suggested that giant squids might be far more aggressive than anyone had thought. Could the depths of the ocean be hiding creatures even more mysterious and colossal than we have ever imagined? In our number 3 spot today, we have the Alecton sea serpent. In 1861, the crew of the French naval ship Alecton experienced something straight out of a sailor's legend. While navigating the waters off the coast of Tenerife in the Canary Islands, they spotted a massive creature surfacing nearby. It looked like a giant squid, estimated to be about 25 feet or 7.6 meters long, a beast many thought only existed in myths. The sailors, filled with a mix of fear and excitement, sprang into action. They hurled harpoons and opened fire, determined to capture this elusive titan of the deep. Despite their efforts, the creature slipped away, disappearing beneath the waves and leaving them empty-handed but forever changed. The captain didn't let the encounter fade into obscurity. He submitted a detailed report to the French Academy of Sciences. The incident became one of the first recorded encounters with a giant squid, helping to shift scientific opinion towards accepting that these legendary creatures were, in fact, very real. In our number 2 spot today, we have the HMS Herald and the sea serpent. In 1857, the crew of the HMS Herald was charting the waters of the North Pacific near the Aleutian Islands when they experienced something that would make even the most seasoned sailor's heart skip a beat. Under the command of Captain Henry Mangles Denham, officers and crew, including the ship's naturalist, Berthold Seaman, they spotted an enormous sea creature breaking the surface of the calm, glassy water. This wasn't a mere glimpse. Conditions were perfect for observation. The creature was described as a gigantic serpent with a head resembling an oversized sea lion, complete with large, expressive eyes that seemed to study the ship just as intently as it was being watched. Its body stretched an estimated 60 feet or 18 meters long, undulating through the water with incredible speed and agility. At one point, it raised its head several feet above the waves, giving the uncanny impression of curiosity. The sighting was meticulously recorded in the ship's log and later detailed in Seaman's published works, adding a hefty dose of credibility to their account. This extraordinary encounter didn't just add another tale to sea serpent lore, it spurred genuine interest in marine exploration and the study of cryptozoology. And finally, in our number 1 spot today, we have the St. Augustine monster. In 1896, the peaceful sands of St. Augustine Beach in Florida became the stage for a maritime mystery that would captivate the nation. 2 young boys, Herbert Coles and Dunham Corbett, came across a massive carcass washed ashore, a discovery that was anything but ordinary. This enormous, unidentified mass stretched about 18 feet or 5.5 meters long and weighed an estimated 5 tons. It had a rubbery, fibrous texture and seemed to sport multiple arms or tentacles, leading excited locals to dub it the giant octopus. Intrigued, Dr. DeWitt Webb, founder of the St. Augustine Historical Society and Institute of Science, examined the bizarre find. He took samples and sent them off to the Smithsonian Institution, where initial examinations by Professor Addison Emery Verrill suggested it could be the remains of a giant squid or octopus. The possibility of a real-life sea monster set imaginations ablaze. However, skepticism grew over time due to the lack of definitive anatomical features. In 1971 and again in 1995, advanced analyses revealed that the mysterious carcass was likely decomposed whale blubber, specifically from a sperm whale. Despite the scientific explanation, the St. Augustine monster became one of the most famous globster cases, a term for unidentified organic masses that wash up on shores. This incident not only fueled public fascination with sea monsters,
We're kicking things off with the toothed sea devil, a truly bizarre anglerfish. This little creature is a real nightmare. Like you need me to tell you that looking at it. The female grows to about 13 centimeters or 5 inches long, and she doesn't have the usual fishing lure that most anglerfish do. Instead, she has a longer, sleeker body that helps her hunt more actively. But the really creepy part is her set of teeth. These teeth sprout from all these odd angles, crisscrossing inside, even outside her mouth, almost like they're stitched together. It just looks insane. Each tooth ends in a hook too, and they can move independently of each other, which helps her trap her prey. It's not clear exactly what she's hunting down there because scientists haven't observed any feeding behavior yet. These things just live so deep down, specimens are too rare to figure out what's actually in her stomach. As for the males, they have a glowing lure that they use to attract prey. Once something gets close enough, it snaps its massive jaws around the poor creature, sometimes even eating animals that are bigger than itself. The males also do something really strange too. They use their large sinus cavities to track down a female by scent, and when they find her, they latch onto her with their teeth and stay there for the rest of their life. Over time, their skin fuses with hers, and most of their body shrivels up while they feed off her BLOOD. It's a pretty crazy, creepy way to live. Then there's the Dumbo octopus, which looks like an adorable Disney creature compared to the nightmare fuel we just covered, hence the Dumbo reference. These little guys are pretty strange though. They look like they have big floppy ears, but those are actually fins. These octopuses don't swim like the others. They live super deep in the ocean, like really deep, over 13,000 feet down. Instead of swimming around, they use their tentacles to crawl along the seafloor. For food, they munch on small crustaceans, worms, or whatever drifts by. They don't bother chewing though. They're more like underwater vacuums, sucking up their meals whole. Because they live so deep, we don't know a ton about them. It's hard to get down that far. So who knows what else there is to learn about these cute, floppy creatures. The telescope octopus is a rare and mysterious creature that lives deep in the ocean, typically between 500 and 6,500 feet below the surface. This little octopus grows to about 8 inches long, and its arms make up almost half of that length. It's related to the glass octopus, another deep sea species, but has some pretty unique features that set it apart. Unlike most octopuses that move around on the seafloor, the telescope octopus prefers to drift with the ocean currents. It spends most of its time suspended in the water column, hanging vertically rather than swimming horizontally like most sea creatures. This helps it stay out of sight of predators since its position in the water is hard to detect. On top of that, its translucent body makes it nearly invisible. It's so see-through that it doesn't cast any shadows, making it even harder for predators to spot. But this transparency isn't just good for hiding, it also helps the octopus sneak up on its prey who can't see it coming. Probably the most recognizable part of this creature are its eyes. Unlike most octopuses, which have round eyes, the telescope octopus has long, tube-like eyes that stick out from its head. They're unmovable stalks and can rotate, giving it a wide range of vision. It's the only known octopus species with eyes that work like a telescope, allowing it to spot both predators and prey from a distance. The rest of its body is also pretty unusual and has delicate webbing between its arms and white suckers along each one. This, combined with its nearly invisible body, give it a kind of ghostly appearance as it drifts through the deep sea. Scientists don't know a lot about this octopus because it's so hard to access, but they think its transparent body and strange eyes may be due to the fact that it stays in a sort of permanent juvenile state. This means it may never fully mature, living most of its life in a form similar to larva. Next, let's talk about the barrel-eyed fish. This fish is seriously one of the weirdest creatures you'll ever see. It has a see-through head, and it's got these glowing green orbs that look like eyes, but here's the thing, those eyes are actually inside its head, under a see-through section of skin, a bit like an astronaut helmet. Super strange, right? This fish lives out in the Mariana Trench, deep where sunlight doesn't really reach. Its tubular eyes face upwards, and they can rotate, so if it was to look up and find some food floating by, it can just swivel its eyes upwards. As for its body, it's pretty sleek and streamlined, built for deep sea life. These fish were first discovered back in 1939, but it wasn't easy to study them because when they brought them up to the surface, the pressure change would just crush their bodies. But now, with remotely controlled submersibles, we can study them much more easily. Now let's talk about Osedax, aka the zombie worm. These things sound like something from a sci-fi movie, and honestly, they kinda look like it too. Also known as bone worms or bone-eating worms, these creatures are nature's cleanup crew at the very bottom of the ocean. They feed on the remains of dead whales whales that sink to the ocean floor. When a whale dies, its body becomes a huge buffet for different sea creatures, including zombie worms. Instead of mouths, these worms have a special trick, if you want to call it that. They secrete acid that can dissolve bone-eating acid. Then they burrow into the whale bones, which is how they get their food. And here's where it gets even cooler. Osenex worms have a partnership with bacteria. The bacteria help break down the bones, and in return, the worms offer the bacteria a nice little home. These worms come in all sorts of colors, and scientists are still discovering new types. Barracudas might not be as large as some of the other predators on this list, but they make up for it with lightning speed and sheer aggression. They're known for their fearsome, sharp teeth, and they're some of the fastest fish in the ocean, able to reach speeds of up to 36 miles per hour. Barracudas are solitary hunters, and they don't hesitate to attack when they see prey. They're often found in deeper waters, where their speed and stealth allows them to ambush fish and smaller marine creatures. Barracuda's sleek, streamlined body is built for these quick strikes, and when they attack, they're usually just this blur of motion. They've been known to target fish much larger than themselves, too, and they can also pose a threat to humans, especially if they feel threatened or they get startled. The great white shark, I mean, they need no introduction. It's probably the most iconic and feared predator of the ocean. Growing up to 20 feet long and weighing over 5,000 pounds, these sharks are apex predators. Very few creatures mess with them. They're built for the hunt, using their crazy speed, strength, and those razor-sharp teeth to take down their prey. When they strike, it's with terrifying power. Their bite is one of the strongest in the animal kingdom, strong enough to crush bone and tear through flesh like it's nothing. While great whites are often called man-eaters, they usually bite humans out of curiosity, not because they're looking for a meal. But people who are lucky enough to survive an encounter are usually left with missing limbs. Their massive size, their incredible power, their hunting skills, it makes them one of the most dangerous creatures in the ocean. Killer whales, or orcas, are not only some of the smartest predators in the ocean, they're also some of the most dangerous. They live in tight-knit groups or pods and work together to hunt all kinds of big prey. Sharks, seals, even other whales. One of the most impressive things they do is hunt great whites. Yes, I said great whites don't have many natural enemies. Killer whales are one of them. Orcas will attack them by flipping them over, which puts the shark into a state of paralysis. Then they'll just go for the liver. Orcas are also great at hunting in deeper water, using echolocation to find their prey and communicate with each other to pull off some very impressive coordinated attacks. There are many different species of box jellyfish, and some of them are among the most venomous creatures in the world. They're mostly found off the coast of Australia and Southeast Asia, and their sting is so powerful it can cause heart failure in humans. Their tentacles have toxins capable of paralyzing or even killing their prey, which includes fish, crustaceans, and small marine mammals. The venom is so powerful, it only takes a brief encounter with one to be lethal. And to make things even worse, their bodies are nearly transparent, making them incredibly hard to spot in the water. If you're not careful, you may not be able to spot one before it's too late. The anglerfish is probably one of the most unsettling creatures you'll find in the deep sea. This fish is known for its horrifying appearance, with a very grotesque face, sharp teeth, and huge mouths that kind of look too big for their bodies, and that eerie bioluminescent lure that hangs in front of their heads like a fishing line. They use it to draw in prey from the pitch black depths of the ocean, tricking unsuspecting creatures into getting close enough for the anglerfish to grab them with its huge mouth. These fish can live in waters more than 2,000 feet deep, where food is hard to come by, so their hunting method is pretty genius. Instead of chasing down their meals or using strength to catch their prey, anglerfish just wait for food to come to them. Some anglerfish species are so adapted to their environment that they don't even see at all. Instead, they rely purely on their ability to sense movement and detect the faintest ripples in the water. When they do catch something, they do not hesitate to use their gnarly, needle-like teeth to trap their prey, making them one of the most terrifying hunters of the deep sea.
In our number 5 spot today, we have the six-gill shark. Hidden in the darkest corners of Earth's oceans, there's a shark so ancient it might as well have swum alongside the very first dinosaurs. The six-gill shark hovers at around 6,000 feet below the surface, slowly patrolling waters where daylight has long since vanished. With its distinctive extra gill slits, one more set than your typical modern sharks, it sports features that date back to the Jurassic, when massive massive marine reptiles ruled the sea. This heavyweight predator can reach lengths of up to 16 feet, yet remains elusive, steering clear of our curiosity by lurking deep beyond most human reach. Over millions of years, it's barely changed at all, hanging on to design elements that worked perfectly before mammals even appeared on land. Knowing that this silent, time-worn sentinel cruises through pitch-black water, still wielding the ancient blueprint of its ancestors, adds another layer of mystery to the hidden world beneath the waves. Next, we are talking about the colossal squid. There's a beast haunting the frigid darkness around Antarctica that dwarfs even the legendary giant squid and wields razor-sharp hooks on swiveling tentacles. The colossal squid thrives thousands of feet below the ice-covered seas of the Southern Ocean, where crushing pressure and bitter cold would make most creatures crumble. It's been spotted only a handful of times, each encounter raising more questions than answers. Its eyes are the largest of any animal on Earth, peering through pitch-black waters in search of prey. Scientists have tried to study it, hauling up a few rare specimens, but even these are often damaged or incomplete, leaving us with only half-understood hints of its true nature. Every scrap of data, every blurry image adds to the legend of this elusive giant. For now, the colossal squid remains one of the ocean's most tantalizing mysteries, a hulking survivor from a time when monsters still roamed the planet's last untouched frontiers. Next, we are talking about the lanternfish. There is a hidden force thriving in the ocean's twilight zone that quietly rules the deep. Lanternfish, which make up about 65% of the biomass down there, have been shining their tiny lights for millions of years, long before humans came into the picture. They hover between 650 and 3,300 feet, well below the sunlight's reach, using their bioluminescent organs like headlights to navigate through darkness thick as ink. These shimmering schools are everywhere, darting through the shadows, feeding on microscopic prey, and supplying a crucial food source to countless predators. Over endless millennia, they haven't needed to evolve a flashier look or a tougher exterior, just their gentle glow and steady resilience were enough to keep them going. It's a subtle brand of power, the quiet domination of the deep, reminding us that some of the most successful life forms on the planet never needed to become giant monsters. They just had to survive where few others dared to live. In our number 2 spot today, we're talking about chimeras or ghost sharks. Meet the chimera, often called a ghost shark, an eerie, cartilaginous fish that split from traditional sharks well over 400 million years ago. That's way before the first dinosaurs stomped across land. With venomous spines jutting from their backs and a ghostly, almost translucent appearance, these deep-sea survivors glide through the Atlantic, Pacific, and Indian Oceans as if reading from an ancient script. They've barely changed while continents collided, species rose and fell, and entire ecosystems rearranged themselves. Their timeless bodies reveal a story in which evolution found a perfect balance and simply paused, leaving these strange, silent predators to wander the ocean floor long after the world above had remade itself 1,000 times over. And finally, in our number 1 spot today, we have the bristlemouth fish. There is a creature down in the crushing darkness that outnumbers almost every other vertebrate on the planet, yet most people have never even heard of it. Bristlemouth fish, found drifting silently beyond 3,000 feet deep, are tiny masters of survival that have barely changed for millions of years. Their jaws are studded with needle-sharp teeth designed to devour whatever drifts their way, while their bodies glow with eerie photophores, sending faint signals through water blacker than ink. No one knows exactly how many trillions of these little predators roam the depths, but scientists believe their population dwarfs most other animal groups. They've quietly built an empire at crushing pressures, feeding on morsels of plankton and marine snow, all without ever needing to tweak their ancient design. It's definitely a humbling thought. These unassuming, toothy survivors run the deep sea show, thriving for eons where countless other species would simply crumble.
Japanese sailors had plenty to worry about when they set out to sea: storms, shipwrecks, the pure vastness of the unknown, but nothing unsettled them quite like the Umibozu, said to be this massive, shadowy entity that would rise up from the ocean on calm nights, a towering black shape with no real features other than its glowing white eyes. Not the type of tentacled or serpentine sea creature you usually picture, and it didn't act like one either. It wouldn't attack right away. Instead, it would demand a barrel from the crew, and if they gave it one, it would use it to then scoop water into their ship until they sank. If they refused, well, things didn't end much better. It's kind of a lose-lose situation. No one really knows where the legend comes from originally, but some say that Umibozu is the ghost of a drowned monk, cursed to haunt the sea forever. Others think it's more of a warning, a way to explain how fast things can turn deadly out in the open water. In some versions, it only shows up when someone on board has angered the gods, meaning if you saw one, your fate was already sealed. The Lusca is a creature that haunts the waters off the Caribbean. Once again, this thing probably doesn't look like anything you're imagining. It's said to be half shark, half octopus. Some even describe it having 3 sharks' heads, so a pretty bizarre looking monster and equally as terrifying. It lurks in the dark depths of underwater caves, ready to drag unsuspecting swimmers or boats down into the water. Local fishermen and sailors who spent too much time on the water often share these chilling stories about close encounters with it. Many sightings of the Lusca have been reported near the blue holes of Andros Island in the Bahamas. One of the most famous incidents happened on January 18th of 2011, when what appeared to be the body of this giant octopus washed up on Grand Bahama Island. Witnesses said that the remains looked like just a part of the creature's head and mouth, and the rest of the body missing. Based on what they saw though, local fishermen who were familiar with octopus anatomy estimated that this creature, if intact, would have measured between 20 and 30 feet long when alive. The description of this next creature is pretty strange, but it actually has roots in real-life reports. It's called Steller's sea ape. It was first described by Georg Wilhelm Steller, a German naturalist who came across it during an expedition to the Bering Sea in the 18th century. According to Steller, the creature was seen in the waters near the Commander Islands, a remote part of Russia. What makes it so strange? Well, it was described as this mix between a primate and a seal, an ape-like creature with the body of a seal, complete with dark fur, a wide mouth, and a flat nose. Some reports say it had a tail like a seal's, but with the arms of a monkey even. I told you this one was gonna be strange. The sea ape was said to have been spotted in the wild swimming and occasionally popping its head out of the water. There's a theory that it could have been a type of extinct or undiscovered sea mammal, a creature that went extinct before scientists could get a proper chance to identify it. Trunco is another weird one. It's the nickname given to an animal reportedly seen off the coast of Margate, South Africa, on October 25th, 1924. The creature was first noticed battling 2 killer whales, which allegedly fought with it for about 3 hours. Witnesses claim the strange creature used its tail to fend off the whales and even managed to lift itself out of the water by 20 feet at one point. After the battle, the creature's carcass washed ashore on Margate Beach, where it remained for 10 days. The animal was said to be around 47 feet long, 10 feet wide and 5 feet high. It had a trunk about 5 feet long and 14 inches in diameter, and a tail that measured about 10 feet. One of the most unusual features was its snowy white fur, which was about 8 inches long. Interestingly, the trunk was also attached directly to the torso with no head visible. This led British cryptozoologist Carl Schuker to dub the creature Trunco in his 1996 book, The Unexplained. Ogopogo is the mysterious creature said to live in Lake Okanagan, British Columbia. Described as a serpent-like monster with a long, undulating body, the creature has been part of local folklore for centuries. Indigenous tribes around the lake have long spoken of a water monster said to control the waters, creating waves and whirlpools to drag people under. The first European sighting was recorded in 1872, but the legend really gained traction in the 1920s. Since then, there have been numerous reports with witnesses claiming to see this large creature with humps rising out of the water, sometimes with this horse-like head and reptilian features. Some skeptics argue that Ogopogo is just a misidentified sturgeon or a floating log, but the fact is, sightings just continue to this day. Could it be some prehistoric survivor, a remnant of creatures like the plesiosaur or a giant eel? The deep-sea cusk eel is a long, thin, snake-like fish that lives in the deep, dark parts of the ocean, usually between 3,280 and 9,840 feet. With its eel-like body, it looks more like a giant worm than your typical fish, and it's got small fins that don't seem to serve much purpose. These fish don't swim around much. Instead, they tend to sort of crawl along the ocean floor, using their long bodies to slither through the mud and sand in search of food. The cusk eel is what you'd call an opportunistic feeder. It doesn't hunt actively, but will scavenge for whatever it can find, including dead animals or leftover bits of prey from other predators. They can survive in extreme conditions, and by that I mean they can go for long periods without food. This is important because food sources in the deep ocean are scarce, so the cusk eel's ability to go without eating for a while is key to its survival, especially because it doesn't really hunt. A hydrothermal vent worm is a remarkable creature found around hydrothermal vents, which are underwater geysers that release superheated mineral-rich water from the Earth's crusts. These vents are one of the most extreme environments on the planet, with temperatures that can soar above 350 degrees Fahrenheit or about 175 degrees Celsius. And the hydrothermal vent worm just loves this environment. What's truly fascinating about these worms is that they don't have mouths or digestive systems, meaning they don't eat food the way most animals do. Instead, they rely on bacteria that live inside their bodies. These bacteria consume the chemicals spewed by the vents, like hydrogen sulfide, and then convert them into energy through a process called chemosynthesis. This allows the worm to survive without eating anything in the traditional sense anyway. The worms themselves are long, bright red tubes that stick out of the ocean floor, often clustered around the vents. The red coloration is thanks to hemoglobin, which helps them transport oxygen in the low oxygen waters around the vents. Hydrothermal vent worms are just a perfect example of how life can adapt to some of the most extreme conditions on Earth. The bioluminescent jellyfish is one of the most well-known creatures of the deep sea, and it's easy to see why. Just look at them. This jellyfish has a protein called GFB, green fluorescent protein inside its body that allows it to emit a glow, often described as an eerie or ghostly light. It uses bioluminescence in a variety of ways. It can attract prey, communicate with other jellyfish, and confuse predators. See, the glow can be used to disorient creatures that might otherwise try to eat it, allowing the jellyfish to then escape. GFP has been so fascinating to scientists that it's now used a lot in research. It's helped develop a number of scientific tools, from tracing proteins in other organisms to improving medical imaging. Now, while this jellyfish isn't dangerous to humans, its glow in the dark depths of the ocean is nothing short of mesmerizing, and its slow, graceful movements combined with that creates this kind of surreal, haunting image, making it one of the most iconic deep-sea creatures in the world. Lanternfish are small deep-sea fish. They're some of the most abundant animals in the deep ocean. Found in the midnight zone, they can grow up to about 20 centimeters long, which of course isn't all that impressive, but it's their glowing bioluminescent bodies that make them look so darn cool. Now, this may seem like a pretty dumb ability for such a small, defenseless creature to have in the deep, dark depths of the ocean, but the bioluminescence is actually used for camouflage, helping them blend into the faint light from the surface when viewed from below. It makes it harder for predators to spot them. It's also a way for them to communicate or attract mates. Lanternfish are an important part of the food chain. They feed on plankton, and they're also a food source for a lot of larger predators. They've adapted to life in total darkness, with big eyes to help them detect the slightest bit of light. So sure, they're small and pretty fragile looking, but they're one of the most successful species in the midnight zone, found in large numbers across the globe. They may not be as frightening as some of the other creatures lurking in the depths, but their ability to survive in total darkness and extreme pressure is pretty impressive. Sloane's viperfish is a predatory fish that lives in the depths of the ocean, often found at depths between 500 and 2,000 meters or 1,600 to 6,500 feet. It has long, needle-like teeth that are so large they don't even fit in its mouth, when it's closed anyway. That jaw is capable of stretching to accommodate those oversized teeth, which it uses to catch and hold on to its prey before swallowing them whole. The viper anglerfish also has bioluminescence with glowing photophores along its body that help it to attract its prey. Those needle-like teeth paired with those glowing body make it one of the most fearsome looking creatures in the midnight zone. But although they look frightening, they're also a relatively small fish, usually only around 30 centimeters long.
Starting off in our number 10 spot, we have the giant squid. There is a colossal predator lurking in the deepest corners of the ocean, a creature with tentacles that can stretch longer than a school bus and eyes the size of dinner plates. The giant squid is no myth. This towering cephalopod hunts in frigid darkness, patrolling underwater canyons while dodging the jaws of sperm whales. Its massive arms, covered in powerful suction cups, can snatch unsuspecting prey in a heartbeat. For centuries, old sailors returned from long voyages telling wild stories of enormous, tentacled monsters dragging ships into the depths. No one believed them until recently, when modern cameras finally captured these real-life leviathans gliding through their pitch-black world. From deep-sea explorers to seasoned marine biologists, everyone agrees. The giant squid is as close to the legendary kraken as we'll ever get, and it's still out there, thriving in places we can barely reach. Next, we are talking about sea spiders. There's something crawling around in the black, crushing depths of Earth's oceans that look more like it belongs on another planet. Sea spiders, with their ridiculously long legs and minuscule, almost comically small bodies. These guys have been skittering about for over 500 million years. That's a timeline stretching way before fish, dinosaurs, and even plants on land. They're not true spiders, but there's an alien elegance to how they hover over the ocean floor, their spindly limbs reaching out in all directions, as if they're trying to find a hold in the endless darkness. Scientists have found them in every major ocean, existing under pressure that would crush most creatures, all while barely changing from their fossilized ancestors. It is a genuine glimpse into a bygone era, a reminder that life down there has perfected the art of survival without the need for constant reinvention. In our number 8 spot today, we have the vampire squid. There is a crimson-shaped cephalopod drifting through near black waters that seems ripped straight from some ancient, forbidden legend. The vampire squid, thriving around 3,000 feet below the surface in low oxygen zones most creatures can't tolerate, is more than just a flashy name. Its glowing red eyes pierce the darkness, while its umbrella-like webbing and bioluminescent organs twist and shimmer with ghostly light. Neither fully squid nor fully octopus, it pulls traits from both worlds, resulting in a bizarre hybrid that's unlike anything else in the deep. Scientists have marveled at how this gentle scavenger, feeding mostly on marine snow rather than attacking prey, survives under crushing pressure and near freezing temperatures, all while looking like it just swam off the pages of some ancient myth. Every glimpse we get from cameras and submersibles leaves us more convinced that the vampire squid stands as a living relic of a time when Earth was wilder, darker, and far stranger than we ever dared to believe. Next, we are talking about the chambered nautilus. The chambered nautilus is a living relic from an era long gone, but it is still here, lurking in the deep waters of the Indo-Pacific. This mesmerizing shelled cephalopod looks like it belongs in a prehistoric aquarium, sporting a spiral-shaped shell reminiscent of ammonites that roamed the seas during the age of dinosaurs. But what makes this creature truly extraordinary is that despite millions of years of evolution around it, the nautilus has barely changed at all. It's like a time traveler from Earth's ancient oceans, left practically untouched for over 500 million years. With its elegant, translucent shell and a series of chambers that allow it to regulate buoyancy, the nautilus seems to float through the water like a living fossil. Scientists marvel at how this creature has survived the countless changes on Earth, making it one of nature's most fascinating and enduring mysteries. How does something evolve so little amid a world that constantly turns and transforms? The chambered nautilus isn't just a survivor, it's a symbol of the ancient world that's still, quite literally, swimming amongst us. Next, we are talking about the giant isopod. There's a massive, armored scavenger roaming the pitch-black depths of our oceans that looks like a pill bug on steroids. Giant isopods, stretching up to 20 inches long, live more than 7,000 feet below the surface in both the Atlantic and Pacific, thriving where nearly every other life form struggles muscles to survive. They belong to the same ancient lineage as trilobites, crawling across the sea floor long before the first humans took a breath. These deep-sea tanks feed on sunken whale carcasses and other debris drifting down from above, filling their armored bellies and then going for months or even years without another meal. Their design has been so successful that they've barely changed over countless millennia, quietly minding their business and waiting